Felix' jaw shuddered, his phone slipping from his grasp and clattering to the floor. At the same exact moment, his earpiece erupted with frantic shouts from his gunman. "Grenade! Sniper! Mr. Shaw, get out of here!" Hearing his bodyguard tell him to run, Felix's hate-filled expression went slack, instantly replaced by raw terror. A grenade? A sniper? What is this Call of Duty? He'd trained his crew of gunmen to make unruly people listen, but they were mostly pistol handlers. And because his father was so powerful, they'd barely seen a real firefight in years. The only assault rifle they had was brought by the one ex-Special Forces operator on the team. Training without combat experience was just talk. But Ethan Vance's men, they were crawlers from the charnel house. "Mr. Shaw," the driver yelled, turning to look at Felix. He saw a terror in his boss's eyes that was even deeper than his own, a deer-in-the-headlights paralysis. Gritting his teeth, the driver didn't wait for an order. He gunned the engine, ready to flee. He'd barely started when the hidden sniper fired a series of shots into the car. Seeing the windows were bulletproof, Lily didn't hesitate. 2 precise shots blew out the tires. Then, slow and methodical, she aimed at the driver's side window, squeezing the trigger again and again, each shot landing in almost the exact same spot. The relentless impact of bullets against the glass shattered the driver's nerve. Who cared about driving? Who cared about his boss? He scrambled to open the door, desperate to escape. $5,000 a month wasn't worth dying for. He threw himself out of the car, trying to imitate the operator's combat role to get to the cover of a nearby wall, but he grossly overestimated his own speed. With a sharp eye and a steady hand, Lily put a bullet through his head. The young woman didn't even blink. She continued aiming at the rear window, and after a few more shots, the bulletproof glass began to spiderweb and crack. Felix screamed, ducking his head and cowering behind the steel-plated door, trembling and howling for his bodyguards to come protect him. He was a bronze leaguer who'd stumbled into a Grandmaster's match, completely outclassed. His lead bodyguard was a master-tier player stuck with a team of iron-rank amateurs. After a few grenades, he was essentially fighting alone. He had anticipated that Ethan's crew was formidable and had even scouted the best sniper position, but he never imagined Ethan's loadout would be this extravagant. Not just grenades, but a real-life sniper. And the 2 men they were trading fire with, a fat one and a thin one, were both carrying M16s. This was a handful of thugs. It was a goddamn special ops team. Ethan Vance. Who the hell is he? There was no time to think. His priority was protecting his young master. But as he tried to retreat downstairs, he ran into an assassin of an entirely different caliber, a true king. Finn had been hiding in the shadows, deliberately letting the gunman go upstairs so he, Beanie, and Jax could form a pincer, ensuring no one got out alive. Now, moving in the darkness, he used a standard Mozambique drill to take out the remaining stragglers in close quarters. Sticking to the wall, he moved toward the stairwell, swapping magazines as he went. Just then, the bodyguard spotted him. Without a word, they both raised their guns and opened fire. After emptying their magazines, they took cover, reloaded, and chambered another round, their fluid movements like mirror images. Finn had noticed this bodyguard earlier and hadn't underestimated him for a second. The bodyguard had clearly felt the same. Amid the intense firefight, they both tried to close the distance. Another magazine ran dry, and the bodyguard was out of spares. As Finn reloaded, the man was already on him, circling the pillar he was using for cover and pulling a knife from his ankle sheath to lunge. Finn threw up a hand to block, simultaneously drawing the kukri from his belt. The gunfight became a knife fight. Finn thought he was in for another exhilarating, drawn-out duel. But after only 4 or 5 moves, his curved blade sliced into the bodyguard's neck. With expert control, Finn spun the blade in a full circle. The bodyguard staggered back a few steps, clutching his gushing throat, and managed to choke out a few broken words. 10 years younger. And you wouldn't have stood a chance. He was bitter that his reflexes had been dulled by age, but he failed to notice that Finn had been fighting him one-handed. The killing machine glanced down at the pistol he had chambered with that same single hand, the one he hadn't bothered to fire. He shook his head slightly, said nothing, and turned to walk downstairs. As he moved, he spoke into his comms. "Boss, compared to the Celestial Axis, these guys are garbage." Lily had long since stopped firing. She looked at the field of spent casings around her with a pang of regret, but then she felt the heavy weight of the bullets still in her pocket, and a smile spread across her face. Back at the Thorn Estate, she never had this kind of luxury. She practiced with a pistol to keep her skills sharp, but she would never have dared to waste sniper rounds like this. She didn't know it yet, but her dear young master had already ordered her a new rifle, one with the longest range in the world, a model no longer in production, its price ranking among the highest. A single box of its specialized ammunition was already going for $2,000 on the black market. As the surroundings fell silent, Felix, still in the car, slowly came back from his terror. Staring at his phone, which remained silent after his unanswered call, he understood. He understood everything. The Red Tower had written his father off as a lost cause. Sienna Sterling's warning about Captain Wallace's betrayal wasn't to help his father. It was to stop his father's dirty laundry from shaking the foundations of the Red Tower itself. He thought of his father's 30-year climb, of the rungs on the ladder he'd scaled, of his obsession with power. A bitter smile touched Felix's lips. He'd reached such heights, only to end up as meat on the chopping block. In this life, how high do you have to go to be considered high enough? For a normal person, the most powerful figure they might ever meet is a precinct captain. But in the eyes of a man like Mayor Cole, what was a captain but a dog on a leash? And Mayor Cole himself, after 30 years of teetering on a tightrope to become the master of this city, in the eyes of the people behind the curtain, what was he but a dog on a leash? Watching the shadowy figures approaching the car, Felix closed his eyes in despair. Ethan Vance, can you tell me who you really are? The Vance family couldn't have raised a team like this. Ethan, looking pale and sick, offered a mocking smile. It's better not to ask too many questions about certain things. Say, your car is bulletproof, but I wonder, is it fireproof? As he spoke, Jax snatched a gas can from Benny's hand and, his face grim, began pouring the contents through the shattered window. Inside the car, Felix suddenly started to laugh. He didn't move, didn't flinch, just let the gasoline drench him. He stared at Ethan with cold, dead eyes. And what kind of happy ending do you think you'll get? Ha ha, that tower, it's too high. It's too high. Ha ha. Don't you worry about us. Just have a safe trip, Ethan said. Then his gaze turned vicious. I used to think I was irredeemable. But compared to your family, I'm a goddamn saint. Say hello to your brother for me when you get down there. Tell him to wait. I'll make sure his life in hell is worse than death. Felix didn't respond, just continued his mad, cackling laughter, muttering to himself, greed. A strong greed guarantees a bad end. Ha ha ha. The Vance family won't have a good ending either. We're all going to hell. Ha ha ha. Jax finished emptying the can. His face expressionless, he reached into Ethan's pocket, pulled out a Zippo, and flicked it a light before tossing it through the window. A furious roar of flames instantly consumed Felix. The madman was still laughing, but his laughter soon turned into instinctive, blood-curdling screams. Fire. Mankind's most sacred light. On the drive back, the mood in the car was heavy. There was no sense of victory, only a grim quiet. Ethan leaned his head back against the seat, exhausted, occasionally glancing at Jax. After a moment, he asked abruptly, "When did it happen?" Jax turned to look at him, then stared out the window. "Remember when your sister got you thrown in the detention center?" That day, I was the one who drove Kimberly to the university. Boss, you know me. I love chasing girls. And to the girls in your country, this foreigner is pretty exotic. It was always easy, a sure thing, always. What's the word? Satisfying? That day I thought she was pretty, so I, added her on WhatsApp. Just wanted to flirt, you know? But then I realized she was different from other girls. She's good. I swear she's really good. So that's it. I was wondering who had the charm to finally capture our Casanova. Ethan sighed. Turns out it's our Cinderella. Not bad. You got good taste. Tell me about it. She never accepted anything from me. Not even a cup of coffee without insisting on paying me back. She wants to change her fate with her own two hands, not by clinging to someone else. And she hates it when people pity her. Boss, you've seen her perform, right? She has a light in her eyes. Even though she's poor, she never once. Finn supplied, complained about her lot in life. Jax nodded. Right, that's it. In this day and age, you couldn't find a girl like that with a radar. My God, you can't imagine. I had to move heaven and high water just to get her to show a little interest. Finn, driving, glanced in the rearview mirror. You mean heaven and earth? Jax waved a dismissive hand. Whatever. See? Damn it. Hey, how come you damn K-pop star can learn this stuff better than I can? Ethan was silent for a moment, then asked, so what's the plan? Jax paused. You mean with her? I admit my Mandarin still sucks, so I have to try harder. Damn it. Learning Chinese is harder than hacking in a Citibank was. Finn spoke up, his voice serious. I'll teach you. Jax just shrugged, giving him a sideways glance. I'm sorry, Finn said unexpectedly. The three words were so out of character that Ethan and Jax both thought they'd misheard. Last night, Finn continued, I shouldn't have been so hard on you. Jax pouted, his voice full of mock grievance. And if I don't accept your apology, are you going to beat me until I do? Finn's reply was dead serious. That's not out of the question. Ethan couldn't help but laugh, clapping Jax on the shoulder. How about we buy you a place near PSU? It'll be more convenient for her father's care. Jax refused immediately, shaking his head. Boss, none of this. It didn't happen, right? Everything should be like it was before. I hope that when she wakes up, she'll have amnesia. She'll forget what happened. Hell, she could forget me too. I'll start over from scratch. I'll even learn Chinese all over again if I have to. In the other car, Beanie was driving. Listening to his brothers on the comms, he glanced at Lily and mumbled, Lily, I'm feeling a little down. Can I borrow your shoulder for a minute? Lily, who had been touched by the revelation from Jax, the one she considered the least serious about relationships, was taken aback. Beanie, you're driving. Besides, your head is too heavy. No. From the other car, Finn's deadpan voice came over the comms. A significant load. Jax groaned. Sheba. That's my line. You damn K-pop star. Why are you making jokes tonight? With that dead man's face of yours, it's really not. He trailed off as Finn shot him a look in the rearview mirror. Suitable. Very suitable. You can continue. Oh, for God's sake. The atmosphere suddenly lightened. Ethan rolled his neck and rested his head against the window, his eyes half closed. Lily, he said lazily, you really should consider Beanie. I want to be his brother-in-law. Lily flushed. Mister, Ethan, you shouldn't say things like that. Beanie stammered, boss, you can't say things like that. By the time the car pulled up to Port Sterling General, Ethan had already fallen asleep. Jax looked at him, then said to Finn, I can go in by myself. You guys go home. He opened the door, but the sound startled Ethan awake. We're at the hospital. Jax looked at his boss's pale face and frowned. Boss, you go home and rest. Ethan took a deep breath and thought for a moment. Fine. Tell your sister-in-law to head back to the manor early, too. I'm not going up. He didn't want Isabel to see him in this exhausted state again. The old saying was true. A sickness of the heart is the hardest to cure. That persistent nightmare, whenever it was triggered, felt like it hollowed him out completely. Back at his villa in Emerald Lake Estates, Ethan took a hot shower, swallowed 2 pills, and fell into a heavy sleep. But less than 2 hours later, he was jolted awake by another nightmare. He sat up in bed, drenched in sweat and gasping for air. He turned his head and saw Isabel, curled on her side on the sofa, fast asleep. Ethan stared, stunned, looking at his wife. Then, puzzled, he got out of bed, gently lifted her into his arms, and carefully placed her on the bed. The Ice Queen hadn't slept well for 2 straight days. Her face was pale, and the dark circles under her eyes were more pronounced. Ethan pulled the covers over her and reached out to stroke her cheek, his eyes filled with a watery tenderness. When she didn't stir, a mischievous thought took root. He puckered his lips and slowly leaned in. After stealing a few light kisses, Ethan was thrilled but not satisfied. He grew bolder and leaned in again. This time, however, just as his lips touched hers, Isabel's eyes fluttered open. Feeling the softness on her lips, Isabel jolted, her eyes flying wide. Izzy, you want to let me explain? Ethan instinctively pinned her hands down, his gaze frozen. Ethan Vance. Isabel wrenched her hands free and shot her arm up. Just as her hand was about to connect with his face, it stopped. After a brief pause, she grabbed his ear instead, twisting it angrily. Have you no shame? Huh? Have you no shame at all? The sharp pain made Ethan grimace. I only stole 1 kiss. Okay, ow, ow. Isabel gave his ear one last vicious twist before letting go, pushing herself up into a sitting position. How can you be so shameless? She said, exasperated. You've gone too far. Ethan gave a sheepish grin and quickly changed the subject. Sweetheart, what are you doing here? Miss me? Isabel shot him a resentful look. Don't be so full of yourself, she said coolly. In truth, after seeing Jax go to the hospital, she'd understood his relationship with Kimberly and had decided to give them some space. She planned to go back to the manor, but the memory of Ethan's tormented state yesterday had left a bitter taste in her mouth. She felt a strange, inexplicable urge to see him. Besides, she wanted to ask him what he planned to do about Felix Shaw. Ethan pouted. You've been here for a while, haven't you? Why didn't you wake me? Isabel ignored him, about to get out of bed in a huff. Ethan quickly grabbed her hand. Okay, don't be angry. I'll write a formal apology. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Isabel looked at his face, which clearly screamed, I'd do it again. and pulled her hand away. I'm leaving. You jerk. Ethan didn't stop her. He scrambled out of bed and rushed out of the bedroom. The bizarre move left Isabel completely bewildered. A moment later, Ethan returned, his expression perfectly serious. The driver and the maid have already left. Honestly, they didn't even wait for you. I'll have Victor chew them out later. What kind of service is that? So unprofessional. Isabel was speechless. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed with a roguish smile. Look at you, my beautiful wife is about to turn into a haggard, old woman from exhaustion. Come on, get some more sleep. Isabel was both angry and helpless. Can't you have a shred of dignity? Ethan shot back. What do I need that for? Now, lie down. Look how tired you are. And don't worry, when I say get some sleep, I mean the noun, not the verb. Isabel took a deep breath, so exasperated she rolled her eyes. I'll sleep in another room. There are no empty rooms. I'll sleep on the sofa. As soon as the words left her mouth, Ethan picked up the glass from the nightstand and poured the water all over the sofa. Isabel stared, dumbfounded. This shameless bastard wasn't even bothering to pretend anymore. I'll sleep on the couch in the living room. Ethan sighed dramatically. For crying out loud, are you going to force me to soak every sofa in the house? That's a lot of work. Then you figure something out. I'm sleeping here. Okay, Ethan said, diving onto the bed with gusto. Ethan Vance. Isabel's body tensed. She instinctively pressed her hands against his chest, a flicker of panic in her eyes. Didn't you tell me to figure it out? Right now, this is the only solution I can think of, Ethan said, rolling over to lean against the headboard beside her, his eyes crinkling with a smile. Isabel couldn't suppress the unease caused by her phobia. She scooted away from him. Shameless, she muttered coldly. Ethan pulled the blanket over her. Just sleep. I swear, I absolutely will not lay a finger on you. Sweetheart, until you're healed, I won't mess around. You made the same solemn promise last time, and you still. Isabel was too mortified to look up, unable to finish the sentence. Can a guy even talk a big game? Ethan said, full of righteous indignation. Think about it. I'm guarding a goddess of a wife, but I have to remain as pure as a saint. It's frustrating, you know. Isabel lifted her gaze, her voice cool. Deep down, you still resent my condition, don't you? All that sweet talk, all that talk about the future, it's so fake. You're just a liar. Realizing he'd misspoken, Ethan laughed sheepishly, then said with a thick face, So, you're saying you do want a future with me? No, my condition. It's not possible, Isabel said, then added seriously, Ethan, no matter what you do to me, I won't blame you. And I don't want to hold you back. You're not getting any younger. No matter what I do to you? Really? Ethan grinned, a mischievous glint in his eye. Isabel frowned, annoyed. That's not what I meant. You're shameless. Ethan tilted his head, his gaze endlessly gentle. Izzy, you're getting closer and closer to me. Before, you wouldn't even let me call you sweetheart, and now you just let it slide. You're so thick-skinned. What good would it do if I objected? So you've accepted it, Ethan said triumphantly. Isabel rolled her eyes. After a moment of silence, she said, Stop messing around. I'm really tired. I'm going to sleep in another room. I can't sleep with you next to me. There really are no empty rooms, Ethan said nonchalantly. If you don't listen, you're going to get a spanking. Isabel stared at the shameless bastard, too angry to speak. Izzy, Ethan said, his roguish expression softening into a genuine smile. I'm tired too. Let's not fight. Just get some rest. Looking at his exhausted face, Isabel felt a mix of emotions. She lowered her head and mumbled, Then go get another blanket. We're poor. We don't have any extras. Ethan Vance. Yes. Husband is here. Isabel bit her lip and grabbed a pillow, smacking him with it. After venting her frustration, she placed 2 throw pillows between them, creating a barrier, and glared at him with a warning look. If you dare cross this line, I'll bite you to death. Ethan glanced at the newly established Mason-Dixon line of pillows and shook his head gently. Sleep well. Isabel, awkward and uncomfortable, slipped under the covers fully clothed. The room fell silent. Other than with Zoe, Isabel had never shared a bed with anyone, let alone a blanket. She tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Ethan turned his face to look at her, his voice a seductive whisper. Izzy, from now on, move in with me. We can just sleep like this. I promise, I won't lay a finger on you. It'll be good for both of our conditions. Isabel refused instantly. No, we are just a fake couple. Then, I'll clear out a bedroom for you. No refusing. Ethan said, No, I'm used to living alone. I don't like having people around. Then I'll move in with you. It's decided, Ethan said, adding, It really is just for the therapy. You said you'd help me. You can't go back on your word. Isabel pressed her lips together. For some reason, the refusal died on her tongue. After a moment of silence, she remembered her question. By the way, that Felix Shaw, what do you plan to do about him? Ethan sighed. From now on, he won't be appearing in Port Sterling anymore. Isabel was stunned. He won't be appearing. Ethan just smiled and said nothing. Ethan, Isabel said thoughtfully, when you said you used to be an arms dealer overseas, was that true? Ethan was silent for a moment. Are you afraid? Isabel didn't answer. She paused, then asked Felix Shaw, was that you? Ethan took her hand, avoiding a direct answer. He took a breath. Izzy, I'm not a good person. My past is complicated. I can't explain it in a few sentences. But please don't be afraid. And please believe me, my feelings for you are real. I swear, I will never allow any harm to come to you. Isabel's expression grew complex. She had a feeling that all the things Ethan had said as jokes were probably true. Why did those bad men kidnap him 10 years ago? How did that boy, tortured and flayed, manage to survive? What kind of storms did he weather in those 8 years? She couldn't bear to imagine it. The words she'd overheard him say at the hospital yesterday were proof enough. The playboy Ethan Vance she saw was just an act. The real Ethan Vance was a wolf, come back for revenge. Was she afraid? She didn't think so. This wolf had never hurt her. All his shameless antics were, in the end, just another form of gentle protection. Besides, she knew her father, Arthur Thorne, had kept gunmen at the house and had blood on his hands. Not to mention, it was at her own insistence that her father had taken care of the young man from the Yates family who had hurt her mother, right in front of her. They had both lost their mothers. Isabel still couldn't get over what had happened to hers, and the pain Ethan had suffered was so much heavier. On some level, she felt a deep empathy for him. If she were afraid, she wouldn't have come here tonight. Did she feel sorry for him? She didn't know. But after hearing about everything he'd suffered, she felt an inexplicable ache in her chest, and tears had fallen without her realizing. All day, she had wanted to ask him, what was the celestial axis? Who was the man who had carved the flesh from his body? And how had he run into him again the other night? This damn man, when she wasn't looking, was probably out seeking revenge every single day. Isabel remained silent. Her own past experiences made it impossible for her to think that what Ethan was doing was wrong. If anyone had suffered all that, shouldn't they get payback? And anyone who committed such atrocities, didn't they deserve to die? Her sudden silence made Ethan's heart leap into his throat. Izzy, I didn't mean to hide it from you. I was... Ethan, Isabel interrupted. I'm not in a position to judge your actions. I wasn't a part of your past, and I have no reason to be afraid of you. It's just a little unbelievable. No matter what kind of person you are in my eyes, you're just Ethan Vance. Ethan's heart settled. He smiled. That's my wife. Bold as they come. Isabel grumbled, fake wife. It'll be real soon enough. Now get some sleep. I'm exhausted. Good night. Isabel glanced at the small lamp on the nightstand, which was dimmed low. She figured Ethan was used to sleeping with a light on because of his own issues and didn't turn it off. She paused, then added, behave yourself. Ethan gave a tired grunt and was asleep in a second. Before long, Isabel also drifted into a deep sleep. Hearing her even breathing, Ethan opened his eyes with a wicked grin, slowly removed the pillows separating them, and then gently scooted next to her, carefully pulling the beautiful woman into his arms. Meanwhile, Jack sat by Kimberly Frost's hospital bed until dawn. When the nurse came in to do her rounds, Jax checked the time, gave a nurse a few instructions, and went downstairs to buy breakfast. The moment he left, Kimberly, who had been feigning sleep, opened her eyes. Ignoring the nurse's protests, she fled the room as if escaping a fire. After leaving the hospital, she ran all the way to the coast. Facing the surging waves, she screamed, trying with all her might to vent the darkness that filled her heart. But the sea breeze couldn't feel her emotions, and the waves mercilessly swallowed her voice. Not every time you face the sea does the spring warmth bloom. After a long time, the tormented young woman gradually calmed down, but her eyes filled with a look of utter finality. She looked down at the photo of herself and her father on her phone screen. Unlocking it, she scrolled through her chat history with Jax, sobbing, I'm sorry. The next moment, she leaped into the waves without hesitation. Day turns to night, and every dawn is the beginning of a new cycle of fate. That's why people call the first light of morning hope. But the dawn's light cannot penetrate the churning sea, cannot illuminate the dim, lightless ocean floor. The cruelest punishments never come from beasts, but from people. Despair is not the product of a momentary impulse, nor is it ended by sinking to the bottom of the sea. It is the feeling that in this vast world, there is no longer a place for you. Once upon a time, that stubborn girl had stood by the sea, gazing at the vast expanse, as if looking at her bright future from starting line. But now, standing in the same spot, looking at the same sea, she saw only a path that had been sealed by fate. That's how fate is, always impossible to grasp. Looking forward, it's all variables. Looking back, it's all constants. Not knowing what fate is true fate. The icy water soaked every inch of Kimberly's skin. The light in her vision grew more distant as her life sank to the edge of its end. In her last moments, she seemed to hallucinate. In the dark depths of the sea, she saw a beam of light. No, it was a figure with blonde hair and blue eyes. An hour later, in a hospital room, Kimberly's eyelids fluttered. As she regained consciousness, a hazy voice reached her ears, as if reading from a text. I tell you I love you, not necessarily to be with you, but in hopes that in the future, when you encounter. Damn it, what was the word? Encounter, right? Encounter life's lows, you won't lose heart. Because at least someone was once attracted to your charm. Once was, and always will be, Haruki Murakami. Kimberly's eyes trembled open. She saw the foreigner by her bed, trying with all his might not to misread the words. His pronunciation still a mess. It felt as if something was strangling her, making it hard to breathe. Her eyes instantly turned red. Jax glanced at her out of the corner of his eye and, feigning composure, continued reading from his handwritten script. The moon does not know of her own quiet beauty, or that she is even a moon. One day your indescribable, sweet smile passed through a crack in our conversation and awoke my slumbering youth. The sunlight was warmer now and brighter than it had been at dawn. On the hospital bed, the tear-streaked girl looked through her blurry vision at the figure standing in the sunlight, his expression serious, fumbling his words and occasionally muttering God or damn it, and she began to sob uncontrollably. Nearing noon, Isabel was groggily woken by a ringing phone. At the same time, she felt an arm swiftly pull away from under her neck. She opened her eyes to see Ethan sitting beside her, calmly answering his phone. The caller was Victor Vance, telling Ethan to come to the manor to see the old man. After hanging up, Ethan smiled at Isabel, then glanced at the Mason-Dixon line of pillows he'd tossed on the floor. Good morning, sweetheart, he said, not missing a beat. I must have had a nightmare last night. I tend to throw things when I have nightmares. Isabel, still groggy and not fully awake, stared at him blankly for a moment before rubbing her eyes and muttering angrily, Shameless. Ethan's heart was filled with joy. He took her hand and smiled. Time to get up. We have to go to the manor. The old man hasn't been doing well lately. The resentment in Isabel's eyes faded. She thought for a moment. Okay, Ethan, my foot is much better. Can I go back to my own house today? Ethan didn't hesitate. After we see the old man, we'll go home. Isabel's lips tightened. She remembered him saying he wanted to move in with her, and her face flushed. She probably didn't realize that her gradual concessions to him weren't just about empathy. They had long since surpassed the bounds of a normal relationship. After they washed up, Ethan got behind the wheel of his brand-new GTR. Not long after leaving the villa community, he hit a button, and the license plate flipped. He switched into fast and furious mode, rocketing toward Phoenix Crest Manor. Isabel was both terrified and thrilled. The frustration of being grounded these past few days vanished in an instant. Upon arriving at the manor, Ethan drove straight to the summit. When he reached the area, he saw that quite a few cars were already parked there. Is your grandfather seriously ill? Isabel asked timidly. Ethan frowned, looking at the parked cars. It seemed like the entire Vance clan, big and small, had shown up. After parking, Ethan got out and walked around to the passenger side to help Isabel. I can walk by myself. It doesn't hurt much today. The thought of seeing the old man made Isabel a little nervous. She had already married into a family far above her station. If the Vances saw Ethan doting on her like this, it would inevitably stir up more gossip, with people saying she was putting on airs, not knowing her place. Ethan paid no mind to any of that. He took her arm and walked slowly toward the courtyard. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Besides the old man, if anyone dares to give you any grief, I'll curse them into oblivion. A warmth spread through Isabel's chest. She lifted her chin to look at him. In the sunlight, his handsome profile was flawless. Am I handsome? Ethan asked with a confident, crooked smile. No, Isabel answered without a second thought. She paused, then pinched his waist. Taking advantage of me again, she said, glancing at the plastic bag in his hand which held 2 bottles of mineral water. The beautiful woman was puzzled. Ethan, you're just bringing your grandfather 2 bottles of water, aren't you? afraid you'll give him a heart attack. The old man has seen everything in his life. We don't need to be fancy, Ethan said with a roguish grin. Besides, this isn't mineral water. Remember Ron Wallace's birthday party? Isabel paused. On the day of the party, Ethan had not only shown up empty-handed, but had shamelessly demanded Ron give him 2 bottles of wine. She hadn't paid much attention that night, but now she realized this damn man had actually taken them. And if that wasn't bad enough, he'd put them in water bottles? Ethan saw her confusion and said shamelessly, Ron only let me have 2 sips that night. He refused to give me the bottles, so I secretly filled them up and swapped his out with water. That old geezer still hasn't brought himself to drink them yet. Or he would have found out by now, huh? Isabel couldn't help but chuckle. Ethan Vance, you really are a scoundrel. Laughing and talking, they arrived at the entrance and ran into Harrison Vance, who was smoking on the porch. Ethan, Isabel, you're here. Harrison, ever the gentleman, moved the hand holding the cigarette behind his back and smiled, the picture of a perfect nobleman. Isabel nodded slightly. Hello, Harrison. Ethan just grunted noncommittally, studying his cousin, the one who had already laid his cards on the table. With Isabel present, he held his tongue. Similarly, Harrison didn't say much more. He gave a slight bow and smiled. Go on in. The family's mostly all here today. It's quite lively. Then he added with concern for Isabel. Don't be a stranger, Isabel. This is your home too. Make yourself comfortable. Thank you, Harrison. Although Isabel didn't know him well, she had heard of the man the media called Port Sterling's first gentleman, hailed as a titan among the younger generation of entrepreneurs. By all accounts, he was a model of virtue. But before Arthur Thorne went to prison, he had warned her that once she was in the Vance family, she must never cross this gentleman. Beneath that noble facade was a ruthless character who spoke with honeyed words but carried a sword in his heart. There wasn't a drop of warm blood in his body. So, even though she didn't know what ruthless things Harrison had done, when she heard Ethan say that Travis Yates had been taken away by Harrison, she knew instantly that Travis was a dead man. You don't need to worry about her, Harrison, Ethan said coolly. She's my wife. I'll protect her. Harrison just smiled, not a hint of displeasure on his face. In the living room, aside from Eva Vance, who had visited the day before, and Victor's second daughter who had married into Macau and hadn't been back in 3 years, everyone else was present. The large family was getting along harmoniously. So harmoniously, they didn't even seem related. Victor sat next to his sister Cassandra, laughing about something, showing no sign that he knew his dear sister had once conspired with outsiders to have him killed. Seeing his son and daughter-in-law enter, Victor rose with a smile to greet them. Ethan, Isabel, come, say hello to your uncle and aunt. Ethan, cool and detached, led Isabel to greet the 2 elders. He didn't even glance at the others. His aunt, normally known for her sharp tongue, was beaming. Seeing Isabel limp, she even expressed her concern with great emotion. After the greetings, Victor glanced at the plastic bag in his son's hand, his lips twitching slightly. He then turned to Isabel with a composed smile. Isabel, your foot is hurt, so just sit here for a bit. I'll take Ethan to see his grandfather. Although Isabel felt it was a bit rude, she knew Victor had his reasons for the arrangement. She nodded. Okay, Dad. I'll wait here. Ethan took her hand and helped her to a chair. Just wait here. I'll be back soon. MMM. Just MMM? Ethan grinned mischievously. Isabel blinked. A moment later, she understood what he meant. She instinctively glanced at the relatives watching her and said awkwardly, I'll wait for you here. Husband. You go on. As she spoke, she straightened his collar. Ethan stifled a laugh, gently tapped her nose, and said dotingly, Be good and wait for me, sweetheart. Isabel's eyes held a faint warning, but she had to nod obediently. MMM. Their aunt cooed. Oh, look at them. Aren't the 2 of them just so in love? Their uncle sighed with a smile. They are. Harrison, get in here. I need to talk to you. You're not getting any younger, and I have to nag you about everything. Can't you be more proactive? Harrison said nothing, his face impassive. The father and son from the 3rd branch left the living room and headed straight for the old man's bedroom. Is the old man seriously ill? Ethan asked. Victor smacked his lips. He coughed up blood a few days ago. He's not in good shape. Ethan grew thoughtful and briefly told his father about Harrison laying his cards on the table. Is he making a move because the old man is dying? Victor gave a faint smile. It's hard to say if the old man will recover. It's expected that the 1st and 2nd branches would be preparing in advance. And you? Are you just going to keep watching? Victor had a shrewd look on his face. Remember Warren Hayes? Ethan fell silent, thinking, after Victor was brought in for questioning by the federal task force, the night he was released, He had inexplicably told Ethan he wanted him to be the general manager of a construction company. He had even turned a mole the second branch had planted by his side, this very Warren Hayes. At the time, Ethan hadn't understood Victor's intentions, but now that Victor mentioned him, it all clicked. You're going to make a move on the second branch? I won't make the first move, but she'll probably come looking for her own death, Victor said with a smile. On the overseas projects, your aunt has already gotten the upper hand on your uncle. Isn't that strange? Ethan was surprised. What? Your uncle is greedy but lacks ambition, and he's not nearly as cunning as his son. It's normal for him to lose to your aunt. What's strange is that no matter how incompetent your uncle is, he shouldn't have lost the advantage so quickly. Harrison probably persuaded his father to take a step back. That kid, ever since I instigated the fight between the two sides, he hasn't even glanced at the overseas projects. Such a fat piece of meat, and he's not tempted at all. He's been lying low, working for the old man. Now that the old man is clearly fading, he's probably going to test the waters. But I can't figure out where he's going to make his first move. Ethan mused. The first branch is showing weakness, the second branch is riding high, and you just swallowed up the Yates family and expanded your power. So, your sister will definitely try to suppress you. Is Warren Hayes the breakthrough point? Correct. The construction company's projects just broke ground a few days ago, and Warren Hayes is in full charge. She will definitely seize this opportunity. But it's too soon. Everything is happening too soon. As they spoke, they reached the bedroom door, but Ethan didn't rush in, waiting for Victor to continue. Victor sighed. Mayor Cole died too soon, and there's still a small part of the Yates acquisition to complete. Your uncle showed his weakness too soon, which means your aunt can now spare the effort to cause trouble for me. Also too soon. And worst of all, your grandfather's illness came too soon. Even though your aunt has the Vance name, she's still a woman. As long as the old man is alive, no matter how much she fights, the Vance family will never fall into her hands. At most, she'll get a piece of it. But now, don't be fooled by her swollen eyes from crying over the old man's illness. In her heart, she's ecstatic. As for Mayor Cole's death, Victor had told Ethan about it on the way home last night. Hearing the regret in Victor's voice now, Ethan didn't explain anything. In truth, if Jax hadn't been involved, he might have waited. After a moment of silence, Ethan blinked languidly and stared at Victor. So, are you happy about the old man's condition? Victor took a deep breath, slowly looking up at the sky. His face was unreadable, his eyes shifting between light and shadow. Half sorrow, half joy, he said in a low voice. Since ancient times, power, money, and beauty have been branded as evils, the poison of kinship. But if you dig deeper, what you find beneath is a heart brimming with greed. History is rife with such stories. Brothers killing brothers for the throne, a warrior stabbing his own godfather with a halberd. Ethan shook his head with a smile. All right, you old bastard. You just wait. Just you wait. I don't care if you make it to the top or not. Your 3 daughters and this rebellious son of yours won't covet your fortune. But when you're on your deathbed, when I'm pulling your oxygen tube, I'll be sure to return those 4 words to you, verbatim. Victor just pursed his lips and brought the conversation back on track. Don't be so eager to pull my plug. Starting today, you're probably going to have to help me. Help you? Yes. Keep up your playboy act, and in your spare time, manage the construction company. I have Warren Hayes by the throat. He's very obedient. You can use him like a loyal dog. I'll leave the second branch for you to handle. I need to focus on acquiring the rest of the Yates assets, and keep an eye on Harrison and his father. I'm just too busy. And this mountain, the old man, is mostly pressing down on me. If I make any sudden moves, he'll use it as an excuse to string my power. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in such a passive position. Ethan frowned. I have to investigate the celestial axis. The trail's gone cold, and I don't even know where to start. How do I have time to worry about your family power struggles, internal strife, and external threats? The father and son's worried expressions were identical. After a moment, Victor sighed. The celestial axis is a big bone. We have to gnaw on it slowly. We can't rush it. You help me first, and I'll use my network to quietly investigate them as well. Ethan nodded slightly. Deal. He paused, then added, Actually, I have an idea. You said before that the celestial axis deals in shady business. If we start with the criminal underworld, we might find some surprises. Victor smacked his lips. The underworld in Port Sterling runs deep. It's not like the old days with dragon tattoos and parading through the streets. Now, they're all entrepreneurs. You can't tell who's black and who's white. I'm not who I used to be either. Most of my business is legal now. I don't have any dealings with those types anymore. I'm not asking you to investigate. Ethan interrupted. If you go yourself, they'll be on their guard, and it'll be a waste of effort. And starting with the small fry is like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's too much trouble. So, we need to secretly support a new faction, steal their business, and make them come to us. As he spoke, Ethan couldn't help but think of Nero. Loyal, bold, and gutsy. He was the perfect candidate. A shame. Ethan hated drugs more than anything in his life. Though he felt it was a pity at the time, he hadn't spared him. We'll plan it out, Victor sighed. First, let's go see your grandfather. Just then, the son and daughter of the second branch walked out of the bedroom together. Seeing Victor and Ethan, they were visibly surprised, then greeted them. Uncle, here to see Grandpa. They only glanced at Ethan, saying nothing. Victor nodded and responded with a smile. Ethan's cousins were named Julian and Melody. Because their father had married into the family, they had taken their mother Cassandra's surname and her arrogant nature. They had never gotten along with Ethan, and he couldn't be bothered with them either. He walked into the bedroom without a word. Inside, a maid was holding the bird's nest soup the siblings had just brought in. Sir, she asked Theodore, would you like to have a bite? Theodore Vance, looking frail, was propped up in bed. He coughed a few times and glanced at the soup. Throw it out, he said coldly. Yes, sir. The maid turned and almost bumped into Ethan. Young mister. Ethan, you're here, she said quickly. Ethan grunted in acknowledgement and swaggered to the bedside, a smile playing on his lips. What was it that old comedian used to say? The greatest tragedy in life is dying before you've spent all your money. The private doctor by the bed stumbled, staring at Ethan in disbelief. The maid, who had just stepped outside, lost her grip, and the bowl of bird's nest soup crashed to the floor. All morning, everyone who had come to see the old man, young or old, man or woman, had been weeping and wailing, desperate to show their filial piety. This bastard or grandson was certainly casual. How could he say something so unlucky the moment he walked in? The maid felt a surge of indignation. The next moment, she heard Ethan say, Don't be in such a hurry to die, old man. You got so much money. You should at least spend 70 or 80% at first. Theodore sighed heavily, glaring at his least favored grandson. You little animal. If you really want me to live a few more days, then don't come see me again. Ethan just grinned unconcernedly and sat on the edge of the bed. Every visit counts, you know. No matter how much you dislike me, I'm still your grandson. Your true grandson. Theodore had heard countless sweet words in his life. Hearing a few unpleasant but honest truths now didn't anger him. He glanced at the plastic bag in Ethan's hand. What did you bring? Ethan raised his eyebrows strangely, then looked at the private doctor. You can step out for a minute. I need to talk to my grandfather. The doctor looked hesitantly at Theodore. Only after getting a nod did he leave. Ethan mysteriously closed the door, then returned to the bedside. He took a water bottle from the bag and slowly unscrewed the cap. Theodore understood immediately, and his cloudy eyes suddenly brightened. Bourbon or scotch? Ethan unscrewed the cap, poured a small amount into it, and carefully handed it over. Have a taste. Theodore took it without hesitation and downed it in one go. Good stuff. He sighed. Got some age on it, huh? Ethan snatched the cap back, tightened it, and stuffed the bottle under the bed. Just one capful a day. Don't be greedy. Theodore savored the aftertaste, but given his condition, he had to let it go. He sighed with emotion. I never thought that the one who understands me best now would be the grandson I could never stand. But this grandson of mine has been playing the fool with me the whole time. It's no fun. Really no fun. Ethan remained impassive. He placed the other bottle under the bed as well, then took the old man's hand, looking at the network of wrinkles and the sparse, dark age spots on its back. Getting old, he muttered. Look at this. The hands that built an empire are now just skin and bones, like dried twigs. Man, forget building another empire. You'd have trouble even hitting me. If these words had come from anyone else, the old man might have heard a subtext, that he was in his twilight years, and it was time to step down. But coming from Ethan, Theodore surprisingly showed no such suspicion. Instead, he sighed, Still blame me? A grandfather hitting his grandson is perfectly natural. What's there to blame? Ethan said with a faint smile. He paused, then pouted. Besides, when you hit me, at least you had some restraint. Other people were the ones who really came down hard on me. You still blame me, the old man said, his voice raspy. He tried to push himself up in bed with his hands, but lacked the strength. With Ethan's help, he shifted into a more comfortable position, his eyes half closed, staring at the ceiling. When you were young, you were different from other children. Unusually calm and patient, wise but not showy, and you loved to read. I still remember when you were 12, Victor bought you a collection of classic political texts, all of them dense and archaic. You actually had the patience to read them. When you didn't understand something, you'd ask someone. You stubbornly finished that entire set of books. A flicker of memory shone in Theodore's cloudy eyes. He coughed a few times, then continued. The ancient said that reading history builds character. Your cunning and temperament are inseparable from that. Back then, I really wanted to groom you to be the successor to the Vance family. But you had nothing but hatred for this family in your eyes. Remember the first time I hit you? Ethan looked down, gently picking at an aged spot on his grandfather's hand. He mused. When I was 8, the old man shot him a sideways glance. See? You remember it clearly, but you still pretend to think about it. That nature of yours is bone deep. You'll never change. I hit you back then because of your test scores. Ethan grumbled, I know. I got a 70-something in English, and you beat me for it. You spent all day buried in books, yet your grades were so poor. That's not stupidity. It's being too clever for your own good. Oof. Hiding your brilliance at such a young age. Did the Vance family make you walk on eggshells like that? I really didn't want you to learn to be so calculating at such an inappropriate age, but you wouldn't listen to a single word of good advice. You never changed. With that, the old man sighed again, shaking his head with a frown. Your father has been a sly one since he was a child. Look at him now. Even I'm a little wary of him. A family shouldn't be like this. Family, Ethan said with a half-smile. That word sounds familiar. Theodore glanced at him and stopped talking about the past. You know, he said with a faint smile, when you were little, you weren't like a child. Now that you're approaching 30, you're full of childishness. Heh, it takes effort to play the fool. Did you really think my old eyes were too dim to see? I never planned on fooling you, Ethan said, not bothering to hide it any longer. So, you were just putting on an act for your father? Or did you come back to the family specifically to go after the first and second branches? You'll have to ask your youngest son that, Ethan said nonchalantly. Theodore said, I know you're probably not interested in the family business. You came back to investigate what happened 10 years ago, right? What exactly were you doing overseas? And after you were kidnapped, what happened? Ethan answered with a question of his own. When I was taken, did you investigate? Or did you even think about rescuing me? The old man's gaze was deep. He answered honestly, no. The moment you chose to leave with your mother, you were no longer my grandson. Ethan pursed his lips. Right? That sounds more like you. The two were silent for a moment. Then Theodore asked abruptly, was Cole involved in your mother's death? Ethan shook his head. No. Then what kind of game are you two playing? Theodore's voice was grave. You love to read history. You should know that in ancient times, plotting against a high-ranking official was a crime that could get your entire clan executed. Ethan played dumb. How could I have such power? Victor said it was a suicide. I figured that corrupt official must have had a crisis of conscience, felt ashamed before his ancestors in the heavens, and couldn't bear to live any longer. Faced with this flippant reply, Theodore didn't press further. His youngest son's relationship with Cole was deep and entangled. His plan to acquire the Yates assets still relied on him. With Victor's cunning, how could he possibly shake his own political shield? The reason wasn't hard to guess, but since the matter was settled, there was no need to pursue it. He just warned Ethan, you can be uninterested in the Vance family, but don't destroy it. From now on, think before you act. In fact, ever since he had returned to the family and the old man had first hit him in anger, Ethan had faintly sensed that his grandfather knew his true purpose. The beating was for others to see, to make the first and second branches ignore him and give him enough time and energy. In the end, it was a tacit approval of his quest for revenge. That's why, when the old man had walked away holding Lucy that day, Ethan's gaze had been so complex. From their very first meeting, the grandfather and grandson had seemed at odds. But who in the entire Vance family could have guessed that the person who understood the old man best, who could communicate with him without words, was this very grandson? Let me have another sip. It's been a while since I had a drink, Theodore mumbled. Ethan grinned and took out the bottle, pouring another capful. Drink up, drink up. Anyway, don't blame me if you kick the bucket. You little bastard. Don't be so disrespectful in the future. Theodore took the drink, sipping it gently, not asking about anything else. Yes, yes, old ancestor, Ethan said with a nod and a smile. He wanted to ask about the celestial axis, but seeing how poor the old man's color was, he was afraid bringing up the past would agitate him. Besides, so many years had passed, the old man probably didn't know much about the current celestial axis. If he did, he would never have let it rise from the ashes. So he held his tongue. Inside the bedroom, grandfather and grandson had their heart-to-heart. Outside, Victor Vance wasn't idle. He glanced at the private physician standing guard by the door, then moved silently to a corner down the hall. He lit a cigarette. A moment later, the doctor followed. Victor offered him a cigarette, his expression unreadable as he studied the man before him. Not yet 30, but but already a medical prodigy with a doctorate, skilled in both traditional and integrative medicine. How is the old man today? The doctor took the cigarette with both hands, lit it, and took a shallow drag. A little better than yesterday, he said in a low voice. Less phlegm. He even had a small bowl of noodles for lunch. Victor's face remained a mask. After a moment of silence, he asked, Walters and the second branch's families came to see him this morning. What was his attitude? Though Victor's tone was mild and his features weren't severe, the young doctor felt a suffocating pressure. He smoked with painstaking care. The old man didn't have much of an attitude, just said he was tired and didn't want to be disturbed. He sent them all away after a few words. A little while ago, the son and daughter from the second branch brought him a bowl of bird's nest soup. He didn't drink it, told them to throw it out. Victor seemed lost in thought. After a few more puffs, he asked, Nothing else unusual about him lately? No, though he's even more stubborn than before. I wanted to give him acupuncture, but he wouldn't even let me help him take off his clothes. Not even his socks. Only the maid who's served him for years is allowed to touch him. The older generation, they have their hang-ups, Victor said with a faint smile. Forget you. After all these years, even I can't touch him. He then added a word of instruction. Linus, you must do everything in your power. If you can extend his life, then extend it. The young doctor, Linus Hayes, nodded quickly. I'll do my absolute best. Good. Victor clapped him on the shoulder, said nothing more, and strode out of the corner. Only then did Linus Hayes dare to stand up straight, a chill still running down his spine. For a moment there, he thought Victor Vance was about to ask him to do something to his own father. A short while later, Ethan emerged from the bedroom. He shot a look at the private physician by the door and walked straight toward Victor. Victor smiled at him, not asking a single question. Ethan pursed his lips. You old fox. I was in there for so long, and you're not going to ask what the old man I talked about? Victor quipped, That's business. I don't pry. Just then, the old butler, Mr. Watkins, approached them. Victor was still reasonably respectful to the man who had served his father for a lifetime, and he stepped forward to greet him. Mr. Watkins, here to see my father again. Mr. Watkins nodded, his gaze landing on Ethan, his eyes cold and dark. Ethan ignored him completely, strolling past with a swagger. Mr. Watkins's voice was unexpectedly heavy. Young Mr. Vance, behave yourself. Ethan paused for a beat, but didn't respond, walking away shoulder to shoulder with his father. The old butler took a shallow breath, staring at Ethan's back. For some reason, his cold gaze was now tinged with a deep resentment. After visiting his grandfather, Ethan had no desire to linger on the mountain and watch his relatives put on their little show. Without a word to anyone, he took Isabel and left Phoenix Crest Manor, heading for her place. Once the car was parked and they were in the elevator, Isabel looked uncomfortable. She glanced up at Ethan, her brow furrowed. Are you really going to live in my place? Ethan raised an eyebrow. What? Having second thoughts? Isabel looked down, mumbling. Our places are already so close. There's no need to stay at my apartment. I'm really used to living alone. That's precisely the problem, Ethan said seriously. That habit is why your condition hasn't improved. Izzy, we both need to make some changes. Otherwise, this will never get better. Isabel opened her mouth, then closed it. The thought of living under the same roof with Ethan felt instinctively awkward, but she'd already agreed to help him with his psychological issues. She couldn't bring herself to refuse. When it got to her apartment, Ethan made himself right at home. He picked a bedroom for himself, and then began moving his clothes and personal items in, shuttling back and forth. Isabel sat numbly on the sofa, watching him bustle about with a look of utter resignation. After a good half hour, Ethan had finally settled into his new nest. He sat down beside Isabel with a roguish grin, taking her slender hand in his. Shouldn't you tell me the door code? Isabel sighed softly and texted him the code. From now on, don't just walk into my bedroom. Promise. Don't mess with my things. Promise I won't. And don't smoke in the apartment. Promise I won't. Ethan froze, then gave a sheepish smile. Can I smoke in my own room? Isabel refused without a second thought. No. Ethan's face fell. Fine, he said, defeated. I'll go out into the hall from now on. Seeing his reluctant expression, Isabel paused, then asked, How many do you smoke a day? How many? Ethan considered it. Telling the truth probably wasn't a good idea. He ventured a number. Half a pack, maybe. Smoke less, Isabel said seriously. 1 pack every 3 days. Then slowly quit. It's really not good for you. Every time I get near you, I smell that stale smoke. It's disgusting. Ethan grinned. Such a strict den mother. But strict is good. Strict is good. Just then, Finn's call came through. Ethan didn't answer. He nonchalantly teased Isabel for another moment, then made an excuse about having something to take care of, saying he'd be back that night. Isabel didn't ask any questions. After Ethan left, she sat on the sofa, lost in thought before getting up and going into his room. The room had been arranged with a certain scholarly air. 2 pieces of Ethan's own calligraphy hung on the walls, and a neat stack of books sat on the desk, alongside high-quality inks and brushes. In contrast, the sheets and comforter on the bed looked like they'd been thrown on without a second thought. Such a slob, Isabel muttered. She took it upon herself to remake the bed, smoothing out the sheets and duvet until they were perfectly neat. She even brought the small lamp from her own nightstand and placed it on his. Ethan went down to the underground garage and got straight into the Hummer. "Where to?" Finn asked, handing him 2 pills and a bottle of water. Ethan swallowed the pills and tossed the bottle into the back seat. "Dr. Russell's. There's something I need to ask her." Finn paused. "Dr. Russell's? Why bring me along?" Ethan ignored the question in his eyes, closing his own and leaning back against the seat, looking lazy and content. His mind, however, was racing. Why had the old man shattered their unspoken agreement today instead of letting the charade continue? Was it a warning to stick to his own business and stay out of the inheritance battle? The line, "I actually wanted to groom you as my successor," proved that Theodore had seen through his 3 children long ago. He'd known that once he was on his deathbed, a war would break out between the 3 branches. So, he had already planned to find a successor among his grandchildren. But now, that candidate could only be Harrison Vance. It seemed the old man knew Harrison was about to make a move. Or maybe Harrison's move was orchestrated by the old man himself. Was this a warning to stay out of Harrison's way? Ethan couldn't be bothered to think too deeply about it. He had 0 interest in fighting for the family fortune anyway. He'd let Victor and Walter's branch go at it. He just had to put on a half-assed show of dealing with the second branch. If he truly pissed off his grandfather, the consequences would only be worse. There was another matter. He needed to secretly prop up a new underworld boss, but finding the right candidate was the biggest problem. He couldn't trust someone he didn't know inside and out, which left only Leo Bishop. But Leo and his crew were just petty thugs. They were fine for scams and petty theft, but murder, arson, and seizing territory? They wouldn't even dare to dream of it. It seemed this plan would require some long-term strategy. Ethan was annoyed that his previous plans had been upended, but for now, he had no choice but to be patient and start over. As they pulled up to Mindshift Wellness, just as Ethan was about to get out, Finn suddenly remembered something important. "Boss, forgot to tell you. The shipment arrives tonight." Ethan was slightly surprised. "So soon?" "Yeah. They pulled some strings, flew it to Cambodia. It set sail yesterday." Ethan was silent for a moment, then asked, "Did Jax go home today?" "No. He's at the oncology center, helping Kimberly Frost look after her father." Ethan nodded. "Don't bother him. Tonight, you and I will pick up the goods." Inside the clinic, Dr. Zoe Russell was sprawled on the sofa, video chatting with Isabel. "Izzy, you have to get that damn man of yours to put on a little more pressure. My appa is ignoring me again." "Okay, I'll talk to him later." "Zoe, have you ever considered that maybe you can't force a connection? You have to take a bite to know if it's sweet. So this is what they call not giving up until you hit a brick wall." "I haven't even seen the wall yet. My head's just itchy." After laughing for a bit, Zoe suddenly asked, "Has that damn man of yours been trying any new tricks to flirt with you lately?" Isabel hesitated, then finally said no. Just then, the clinic's doorbell rang. Zoe got up and walked toward the door, still talking. "Anyway, don't trust him. That dog is a total player. Gotta go. I have a feeling fortune is knocking at my door. Talk to you later." She hung up and opened the door, only to see Ethan and the appa of her dreams. Zoe's mind went blank for a second. "Dog, brother-in-law," she blurted out. Appa, you're here too." Ethan smirked. "Dog what?" Zoe stammered. Did I say that? I called you brother-in-law. Such a sweet talker. Looks like my money wasn't wasted." Ethan joked, walking in without an invitation. Zoe gave a sheepish laugh, her face flushing as she looked at Finn. In contrast, the killing machine merely glanced at her before following Ethan inside. "Hot 1 minute, cold the next. He invited me to dinner last time, and now he's playing the Ice King. That crazy, perverted Korean." Zoe grumbled to herself. After closing the door, she made 2 cups of coffee and brought them over. "Don't trouble yourself. Have a seat," Ethan said. "There are 2 things I want to confirm with you." Zoe, unsure of the reason for his visit, nodded uncertainly. "Go ahead." Ethan's brow furrowed, his expression serious. "Isabel's condition. Do you have a better treatment method? Or do you know if another psychologist might have a better approach?" Zoe blinked. It sounded like this man, thought she was incompetent and was planning to replace her. In fact, if Isabel hadn't always refused, Ethan would have replaced her long ago. Despite her disappointment, Zoe didn't dare show it. She forced a smile. I can't speak for others, but I do have another treatment method. It's just... What is it? Ethan stared into her eyes, as if trying to see into her soul. Zoe didn't flinch, meeting his gaze. Physical therapy. It's not a quick fix, but compared to past methods, it would be more effective. Physical therapy? Ethan's brow furrowed even deeper. He'd had the misfortune of experiencing so-called physical therapy before, things like electroconvulsive therapy or transcranial magnetic stimulation, used for severe mental illness. The pain was something even he found hard to bear, and it wasn't a one-and-done deal. It required gradual, repeated treatments to see any real effect. Zoe bit her lip. It seems you know what that entails. I couldn't bear to do that to Izzy, and I will absolutely not allow you to do that to her. There's no other way? Ethan's expression was grave. Zoe took a breath. Conditioned reflex correction. I've been trying to persuade her to interact with the opposite sex, but she could never do it. Until you showed up. She's actually showing signs of improvement now. It just requires a long process. Ethan gave a wry smile. So, the homespun remedies I found online, like holding hands and fist bumps, actually work? I guess we'll just have to wait then. Zoe's face gradually darkened. Ethan Vance, she said coolly, I'm scared of you, and I can't afford to offend you. But if you dare use your sweet talk to trick Izzy into undergoing physical therapy, I will fight you to the death. Ethan offered no explanation, just a faint smile. Am I really that despicable in your eyes? Heh, don't worry. She's my wife. I would never hurt her. He paused, then changed the subject. There's one more thing I need to confirm. I'm constantly testing her boundaries with physical contact. Will that have any side effects? Like, could it trigger her, make her resent me? Zoe froze, a flicker of cunning flashing in her eyes. She nodded repeatedly. Yes, it will. You should stop doing that. Keep your distance from Izzy. Oh, Ethan studied Zoe's earnest face, then glanced at Finn. You know, Finn, I'm starting to think Russell's skills are mediocre. She probably can't cure you. From now on, don't bother coming here. I'll find you another doctor. He paused, his tone hardening. A pretty one, with all the right qualifications. Finn nodded calmly. Okay. Zoe was speechless. Seeing the quirky psychologist's face contort with an expression she could barely contain, Ethan stifled a laugh and added, Finn, delete her on WhatsApp. No point in staying in touch anyway. Come on, let's go find another. Wait. Zoe's face was a mask of misery as she tightly gripped Ethan's sleeve. Brother-in-law. You can't do this. Ethan grinned. Brother-in-law? You really see me as family. I. Zoe stammered, unable to get a word out. Sigh. Ethan sighed, shaking off her hand. Let's go, Finn. Just as he stood up, Zoe blurted out. It won't. Okay, really won't or fake won't. Zoe grumbled reluctantly, her eyes full of resentment. Anyway, if she shows any resistance, don't push it too far. Finn, hang tight. I need to chat with Dr. Russell for a couple more minutes. Hearing this, Finn stared blankly at his boss. So, this is the only reason you brought me here. Is there anything else I should be careful about? Ethan asked. Zoe pouted, her face long. Just don't go overboard. And don't bring up her past. That's it. Zoe rolled her eyes. I'll remind you one more time. If Izzy really develops feelings for you, she won't be able to leave you. If you don't have the determination to see it through to the end, then don't mess with her. I will heal her slowly. Understood. Ethan smiled, then patted Finn's arm. You know, Finn, Russell's skills are miraculous. You should really commit to the treatment. Come back a few more times. I'll pick you up tonight. Finn muttered, I she be your head. Zoe exploded. Did you really delete me? Add me back. Ethan walked out of the clinic with a wicked grin. After closing the door, he called Isabel and made up an excuse, saying he'd be home tomorrow. Around 3 in the morning, Ethan and Finn drove the Hummer to South Cove Pier. About 20 minutes later, a light flashed twice on the distant water. Finn immediately took out a flashlight and flashed back twice in response. Soon, a black boat slowly approached the shore, and 3 Mexican men jumped out excitedly. Hey, Steven. Ethan smiled and went to meet them, speaking in English. Long time no see. Thanks for the hard work. The 3 men chatted warmly with Ethan and gave Finn a nod. Then, they started inspecting the cargo. Everything you ordered is here. Go ahead and count it. Ethan gave a quick look and smiled. No need. We're old friends. I trust you. The leader of the trio, a burly man, grinned. Steven, there's one more piece of equipment. I think you'll like it. Come on, take a look. He led Ethan and Finn to the stern and pried open a large wooden crate. Here, the Cambodian client who ordered this piece was assassinated 3 days ago. I don't know what to do with it now. If you need it, I'll sell it to you cheap. Ethan and Finn stared at the massive weapon in the crate, their jaws dropping. Finn muttered, "We don't need that, do we?" Ethan thought for a moment, then looked at the man. $5,000. If you agree, leave it. If not, take it with you. The man's face fell. 5,000? I might as well throw it in the ocean. It comes with 20 boxes of ammo. The bullets alone are worth more than that. Then throw in the ocean. Ethan turned to leave. Hey, Stephen. The man quickly grabbed Ethan's arm, pleading, "You know how much it'll cost me to ship it back. Please do me a favor. Add a little more, just a little." "Sure. 5,001. The man was speechless. Ethan laughed. "You guys have always worked with acquaintances. You get the money first, then deliver. That dead guy already paid for this monster, and you're trying to sell it to me again? $5,000 is your tip for the trouble. Take it or leave it." The man shrugged. It was less than he wanted, but better than actually throwing it in the ocean. "Deal. $5,001. They loaded all the gear into the Hummer. With no time for idle chat, they said their hasty goodbyes and went their separate ways. This wasn't exactly a legitimate transaction, after all. On the road, Finn asked Ethan, "What do you want that thing for? The celestial axis isn't that terrifying, are they?" Ethan smiled. "Better to be prepared. What if? We need it." Finn blinked. "Well, I don't like using it. Beanie and Jax probably don't know how, and Lily, she probably can't even lift it." Ethan slapped his thigh, laughing. "Worst case, I'll use it. I wonder where these guys got their hands on this stuff." Huh. Carrying a full load of military-grade weapons, the two of them played it safe and avoided the main city roads. Instead, they skirted the city and took an old state highway toward Emerald Lake Estates. Not many people used this road anymore. It was the domain of semi-trucks. The road was in a perpetual state of repair, yet it remained riddled with potholes. If it rained heavily, smaller cars wouldn't dare to drive on it. After more than an hour, they finally reached the west side of the city. Just as Finn was about to take the exit ramp into the city, there was a loud bang, and the front of the Hummer swerved violently. Luckily, they weren't going fast. Finn gripped the steering wheel and slowly brought the vehicle to a stop on the shoulder. He got out, flashlight in hand, and saw that both front tires were flat, pierced by numerous iron nails. Staring at the nails embedded in the tires, Finn turned off his flashlight and slowly stood up. "Someone deliberately laid down nails," he stated calmly, his hand instinctively moving to the gun at his waist as he scanned the surroundings. Ethan grew alert as well. He opened a rear door and pulled out a handgun. The two brothers positioned themselves expertly, back to back, silently observing the area. After a long wait with no sign of movement, only the occasional semi-truck roaring past, Ethan let out a sigh of relief. "I think the celestial axis has got us all on edge. It was probably just some pranksters, and we happened to run into it." Finn relaxed a little. "Call for a tow?" To be on the safe side, Ethan decided to have Beanie come get the cargo first. Once the weapons were secure, then he'd call a tow truck. Just then, a silver-gray Volkswagen sped toward them, stopping precisely in front of the Hummer. Ethan hadn't even dialed the number yet. He put his phone away, waiting to see who it was. Finn remained vigilant, his hand still resting on his hip. Two men, one fat and one thin, both with the air of street punks, got out of the car. The fat one approached Finn with a grin. "Hey buddy, you got a flat?" The thin one said nothing, just turned on his phone's flashlight and bent down to inspect the Hummer's front tires. Finn was speechless and glanced at Ethan. Ethan sighed. "So, it's a couple of petty thieves trying to make a quick buck?" He'd seen this kind of thing countless times in Mexico. Whenever a tire blew, some junkies would show up to offer a change, flash a weapon, and tell you a new tire cost $1,000, all with a polite, smiling service. Of course, Ethan would politely offer them a few lead peanuts in return. But now, in Port Sterling, who would have thought? He was driving a massive Hummer. Weren't these two afraid of offending someone important? "Middle of a night like this, it's going to be hard to get a tow truck," the fat one said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Lucky for you, our repair shop is right nearby. We can tow it over and take a look for you." A notorious bandit leader getting shaken down himself. Ethan couldn't help but find it amusing. But right now, the priority was getting the truckload of weapons back safely. He couldn't be bothered with them and planned to give them a little cash to make them go away. However, as he was about to get money from the car, Finn coldly refused. "No need. I'll change it myself." The fat man's face instantly darkened. "Both tires are blown. You got that many spares? Besides, you got a license to do repairs?" "Huh? Who said you could fix your own car?" "I'm warning you. This is a main road into the city. It's narrow, and it's going to be packed in the morning. If you obstruct traffic, the fine will be a lot more than the cost of a couple of tires. None of your business, Finn said. The fat man snorted. Let's not even talk about that. First, pay me $800. Oomph. I heard the blowout and rushed over. That's not too much for my trouble, is it? You guys look rich. You can't go breaking a good Samaritan's heart. The thin man's eyes widened, and he bared his teeth like he was about to eat someone. Hurry up, pay the $800 first, and we'll talk about the rest later. Motherfucker, I'd like to see who on this road dares to tow your car. Seeing Finn clutch the cross around his neck, Ethan quickly patted his arm. He decided against giving the money now and stepped in with a smile. All right. Call your tow truck. Help us out. The fat man's expression finally softened. He shot a glare at Finn. You look all prim and proper, so why are you so rude? You should learn from your friend here. He's got class and open mind. You can tell he's a big shot. He turned to Ethan with a grin. No wonder you're driving a Hummer. Big shots are just different. Ethan's smile was flawless. You flatter me. You guys have to do a good job on the repairs. And tonight, I'll be sure to reward you handsomely. The thin man was beaming. He looked at the big Hummer, then at the harmless-looking Finn and the well-dressed Ethan. He figured they were a couple of rich kids who hadn't seen much of the world and were easily intimidated. Tonight was going to be a big score. Suddenly, the thin man felt that Ethan looked familiar, like he'd seen him somewhere before. But it was too dark to see clearly, so he didn't give it much thought. A short while later, the fat man called a tow truck, which hauled the Hummer to a repair shop less than 500 yards away. The shop was a converted old house in a remote area. It looked like the kind of place people disappear from. Could it possibly be legitimate? As soon as they arrived, Ethan saw a semi-truck parked at the entrance. A man was standing in front of it, seemingly blocking it from leaving. Several mechanics were cursing at the driver, spewing a torrent of filth. Ethan frowned, not knowing what was going on. But the fat man cursed under his breath, then stormed over to the semi, pointing at the driver and shouting, "You haven't paid in full. You dare try to leave?" The driver poked his head out of the window, his face a mask of misery, too scared to argue back. "I already paid. Please, just let me go. I've been delayed for so many days. The client is about to sue me." "You want to leave?" "Fine," the fat man said menacingly. "The authorities mediated, didn't they? I'll forget the 20,000. 5,900. Not a penny less. You son of a bitch, you try leaving. See what happens. The client isn't the only one who's going to sue you. You want to play hardball? Huh. I'll make sure your whole family suffers." Watching the mechanic's arrogant display, Finn's cross was practically smoking from how hard he was rubbing it. He pretended to wander around casually and noted that there wasn't a single security camera in the entire shop. He took a soft breath, returned to Ethan's side, and whispered, "It's a black site. Of course. Why would a place running an extortion racket install cameras on themselves?" The semi-truck driver was dragged out of his cab. Several mechanics surrounded him. They didn't hit him, but they were all cracking their knuckles and spewing venom. The driver could only sit on the ground, helplessly wiping away his tears. Just then, a child's cry came from the truck. "Daddy, don't yell at my daddy." Ethan looked toward the window and saw a little boy, only 3 or 4 years old. His fists clenched involuntarily. Leon, be good. Don't cry." The driver quickly stood up, forcing a smile for his son. "I'm just playing around with these uncles. Don't be scared. Play my ass." The thin man pointed a wrench at the driver's nose and cursed, "I don't care what you do. Just get the money paid, and we won't stop you. Otherwise, think about your son." Ethan couldn't listen anymore. He strode forward. "That's enough. Get to my car. I'm in a hurry. I'll pay their bill." The mechanics were all stunned, turning to stare at Ethan in unison. The driver himself was slow to react, looking at Ethan with a blank expression. "Well now, what did I tell you? You're a real big shot." The fat man's face instantly switched back to a beaming grin. "Buddy, he owes us 5,900. But for a man of your stature, that's just pocket change, right?" Ethan's tone was lukewarm. Fine. Forget 5,900. I wouldn't even blink at 59,000. All of you step aside. Go change my tires and let this man leave." The mechanics exchanged glances, clearly not trusting him. The fat one's smile was all teeth. "Then you'll have to pay up first, won't you?" Ethan didn't hesitate. He went back to his car, took out the $6,000 in cash he had, thought for a second, and quietly pocketed 1,000. He tossed the remaining 5,000 to the fat man, as if throwing a bone to a dog. "This is all the cash I have. Take it for now. The other 900, I'll transfer it with my repair bill later. This Hummer is worth a few million. I'm not going to skip out on you. And even if I did, there are so many of you. You think I could run?" The fat man was ecstatic. He couldn't believe there were still suckers like this in the world, playing the hero. The guy had forked over the bulk of it without a fight. He wasn't worried about him skipping out on the rest. Right. You're clearly a man destined for great things. Huh, we'll get right on your car. With a wave of his hand, the other mechanics dispersed. The driver felt like he was in a dream. He pinched his thigh hard. It hurt. For the 10 days he'd been stuck here, he dreamt of this exact scenario every night. He never thought it would actually come true. Thank you. But you spending this money for nothing. How about you add me on WhatsApp? I'll pay you back once I earn the money. Ethan looked at the driver, then casually asked the fat man, "Are you the boss here?" The fat man was counting the cash, grinning. You ever see a boss working overtime in the middle of the night? My boss, his name is Bao. You can ask around. He's just like you, a man destined for great things. With that, he hugged the money and walked toward his office. It's all here. We'll get right to your car, just wait. After the fat man left, Ethan reached out and gently pinched the little boy's cheek. He asked the driver, "How old is he? Why is he on the road with you?" 4. His mom died of cancer, so my mother was taking care of him. A while back, my mom got sick too, ended up in the hospital. I had no choice but to bring him with me. The driver choked up. "Brother, thank you so much. The money, I will definitely pay you back. Don't worry about it." Ethan tossed the $1,000 from his pocket through the truck window so quickly the driver didn't even notice. "What happened here? I heard something about a $20,000 repair fee." The driver sighed heavily. 10 nights ago, I was passing through here and my tires suddenly blew. I was hauling a heavy load and the jolt broke the main support beam. I called for roadside assistance, but these guys from the repair shop got here first. I asked for a price. It was ridiculously high, so I decided to wait. But hours passed, it was almost dawn, and the tow truck never came. Then, that fat guy just now, he started talking about obstructing traffic, a $20,000 fine. He said if I signed a repair contract with them, it would only be an $8,000 repair fee, no fine. There were so many of them, I felt forced to sign just to get the road cleared. As for the money, I figured I'd report them to the authorities. Someone had to do something about their insane prices, right? I was hauling heavy-duty motors, very valuable. They had to use a crane to move them to another truck before towing mine to their shop. I never expected that after the tow, the bill they gave me was for $28,000, just for using their crane for less than half an hour. They charged $20,000. The next morning, I reported it to the relevant departments. People came, but they all just passed the buck. No one did anything. Desperate, I called a reporter to expose them, but they smashed the camera and almost beat up the reporter. It was the reporter who helped me, and only then did the authorities start to mediate. But this shop stuck to $5,900, not a penny less. When they saw I couldn't pay, they blocked my truck, and they've kept me blocked for 10 days. Last night, the client called and said they'd give me 2 more days at most, otherwise they'd sue me for damages. I only make $800 on this whole trip. As he spoke, the driver started wiping his eyes again. I've been a driver for 3 years, been to a lot of places, and I've never encountered anything like this. In other places, a lot of repair shops are really good to us truckers. We're all just trying to make a living. We know it's not easy. And the law enforcement is humane. For minor infractions, they'll let you off with a warning. When my wife was sick, a traffic cop even donated $100 to me. But here, in Port Sterling, how can it be so dark? Civilization is supposed to advance step by step, but along the way, there are always a few parasites dragging it back. Victor Vance's description of Port Sterling as a ghost city shrouded in fog was spot on. It wore the title of a civilized city. Its streets so clean you couldn't find a single cigarette, but yet harbored countless demons and ghouls. More than corrupt officials, what people truly hated were the lazy ones who did nothing. Ethan patted the driver's shoulder, his face dark. "Go on, get moving. Don't be late with your delivery." The driver insisted on adding Ethan on WhatsApp, but Ethan kept refusing. They argued for a while until Ethan finally snapped. "Just get the hell out of here." The driver slowly started his truck. Not long after leaving the repair shop, he found a thick stack of cash under his son's seat. At that moment, the tough-as-nails man broke down and wept uncontrollably. Ethan stood outside the repair shop gate, silently smoking, his eyes flickering in the dark, his expression impossibly grim. After finishing his cigarette, he strode into the shop. The thin man was sitting under the eaves, having opened a pack of premium cigarettes. He lit one for himself, sipping tea as he smoked. He watched a figure walk in through the gate, his eyes fixed. Gradually, as the figure stepped into the yard's light, Ethan's face became clearer and clearer. The thin man frowned. The more he looked at Ethan, the more familiar he seemed. Had he seen him on TV? These rough-and-tumble mechanics didn't usually pay attention to entertainment news, so of course they wouldn't recognize Ethan's face. But then, the thin man suddenly remembered the news about the international students at PSU getting beaten up. It had caused a huge uproar, and people were still cursing the university to this day. The attacker, it seemed to be the man right in front of him. If he wasn't mistaken, this was the young master of the Vance family? Ethan looked at the three mechanics, changing his tires in the workshop, his expression complex, as if weighing his options. His peripheral vision caught the thin man under the eaves. He turned his head and noticed the man's odd expression, the panic in his eyes. He walked over with a faint smile. "Why are you looking at me like that?" The thin man swallowed hard and scrambled to his feet, trembling. Your last name is probably Vance, right?" Ethan pursed his lips, his expression strange. He sighed. "I was just thinking about how to warn you guys, to teach you a lesson, so you'll stop hurting people. Why do you have to go and recognize me?" Heh. The thin man's heart leaped into his throat. He only half understood what Ethan was saying. He thought that offending a Vance family heir meant he was in for it. He needed to get inside, wake up their boss, who had passed out drunk half an hour ago, and have the boss come apologize personally. They'd return the $5,000, maybe even pay more in compensation. Anything was better than having this young master hold a grudge and send the Vance family's people after them, right? But what he couldn't have imagined was that this particular young master didn't hold grudges, and he never relied on the Vance family. Seeing the thin man about to run, Ethan casually lifted a hand, grabbed him by the neck, and slammed him back into his chair. He leaned in and whispered in his ear, "I'm not a good person, and I don't know the law. But I understand one thing. If you do enough evil, sooner or later, you're going to hell. Heh, let me help you get there a little early." The thin man was being choked, unable to breathe, let alone call for help. His eyes pleaded with Ethan, full of terror, his hands clawing uselessly at Ethan's grip. The next moment, with a gentle twist, there was the crisp snap of breaking bone. The thin man was on his way. Ethan, expressionless, even took the care to arrange him in a sleeping position. He looked quite peaceful. Not far away, Finn witnessed the entire process. He blinked calmly and headed for the workshop. Inside, two mechanics had just finished changing the Hummer's front left tire. One of them lit a cigarette and went to help the other, who was working on the right tire. The third mechanic, a shifty-eyed man, had no intention of helping. He glanced furtively outside and saw that the two brothers were gone. He pulled out his usual tools and expertly pried open the car door, looking for anything valuable to snatch. His two accomplices were in on it, occasionally looking back to act as lookouts. After rummaging through the front, he found nothing of value. Ethan had already taken all the cash from the glove box. He glanced into the back and was stunned to see several large black leather bags filling the seats. His eyes lit up, and he eagerly reached for the closest one. However, the bag was dead heavy. The mechanic was shocked, but his heart filled with even more delight. Could it be gold? A guy who could afford this kind of luxury car wouldn't be hauling around a pile of scrap metal, right? Even if it wasn't gold, it had to be something valuable. But his excitement lasted only a moment before he grew timid. If the bag was full of gold and silver, the owner's background must be formidable. Forget him. Even his boss couldn't afford to offend someone like that. But driven by human greed and intense curiosity, he couldn't bring himself to back down. Fortune was right in front of him, and the itch was unbearable. Maybe I'll just take a peek at what it is, play it by ear. With that thought, the mechanic excitedly unzipped the bag and reached inside. By sheer coincidence, his hand closed around a cool, egg-sized metal object. "What the hell is this?" he muttered, pulling out the metal egg. The light inside the car was dim, so he brought it close to his face for a better look. Just then, a cold voice came from behind him. "Nice, isn't it?" The mechanic finally saw clearly what the metal egg in his hand was. His body went rigid. He turned his head, trembling, and saw Finn's harmless-looking face. But to the mechanic at that moment, that face was the furthest thing from harmless. What kind of harmless person keeps a motherfucking bag full of grenades in their car? "What are you looking for?" Finn asked, a hint of mockery in his eyes. The mechanic tried to feign composure, but in this situation, no normal person could. He, trembling, stuffed the grenade back into the bag, scrambled out of the passenger seat, and turned, pressing his back tightly against the car door. A cold sweat soaked his entire body as he stared at Finn in terror. "In nothing. I was gonna wash your car for you. W wanted to move your stuff out first." His brain was short-circuiting. It was the only lie he could come up with, as unbelievable as it was. He was even stupidly blaming his two accomplices in his head. Why hadn't they warned him? But then he accidentally saw the kukri in Finn's hand, the fresh blood still dripping from its blade. A chill shot up his spine. He instinctively glanced toward the right front tire. Sure enough, His two accomplices were lying in a pool of blood, their throats still gushing. He took out two people without a sound. Is this guy even human? Finn, unhurried, stuck the blade of the kukri into the petty thief's mouth. He tilted his head to the side, his expression blank. Move. I'd rather not clean the car. The mechanic's vision swam. He felt like he was suffocating, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He wanted to scream, but with a blade in his mouth, its tip seemingly already at his throat, he didn't dare make a sound. Seeing him frozen, Finn didn't waste any more words. He grabbed the man's hair, yanked him to the side, and simultaneously swung the kukri. The blade sliced clean through the left side of the mechanic's face. A second later, another slash opened his throat. Finn tossed him to the ground to enjoy the final minute of desperate, terrifying awareness before death. Seeing that 2 drops of blood had still spattered on the car door, Finn's eyes showed a hint of annoyance. He muttered, "Aishiba," then wiped off the blood, put away his kukri, and got to work, tightening the last 2 lug nuts on the right front wheel himself. At the same time, the fat man walked out of the office holding a stack of receipts, a broad smile on his face. "Take a look, here's tonight's bill. If there are no problems, you can settle up." Ethan smiled faintly, took the bill, and glanced at it. "This expensive?" The fat man clicked his tongue. "Expensive? This is a small vehicle. Towing is 1,000 a mile, and less than a mile still counts as 1,000. As for the tires, too many holes to patch. We replace them with a brand name, 800 a pop. That's the market rate. Besides, a big shot like you shouldn't be sweating the small stuff, right?" Ethan's long, narrow eyes half closed. He stared at the fat man's smiling face and said nonchalantly, "You really think I'm a big shot? Definitely destined for great things." The fat man's smile grew wider, his face tinged with an almost imperceptible mockery. He looked like an old pro swindling a naive rich kid. Ethan's eyes widened slightly. He grinned. "I think I'm destined for great things, too. But I need to borrow something from you." The fat man froze. "Borrow something from me? A big shot like you. What could you possibly borrow from me? I'm just a mechanic, huh?" Ethan slowly lit a cigarette. "You sure you're just a mechanic? I'm starting to think you look more like a bandit." The fat man's brow furrowed at once. He glared at Ethan. "Buddy, what's that supposed to mean, huh? You trying to skip out on the bill? Looking for trouble? Do you have any idea who our boss is?" If he had known that the man before him had slaughtered a police captain's entire family just 2 days prior, one wonders if he would have had the courage to say those words. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Who?" The fat man looked Ethan up and down, then sneered. "You look all dapper. Your family must have some money, right? Heh, let me tell you, in this world, money is useless. You need connections. If you don't want to be carried out of here sideways, you'll obediently pay me. Don't even think about reporting us, or complaining, or calling the cops. It's useless." The words had barely left his mouth when Ethan's hand flew out, a sharp slap cracking across his face. "I asked you a question. Who's your boss?" The 200-pound man was sent sprawling to the ground, landing face first in the dirt. He saw stars, his vision swimming. He must not have expected anyone to dare get physical with him here. He was stunned for a long moment before he finally reacted, scrambling to get up and fight back. But a vicious kick from Ethan connected squarely with his face. His nose shattered, and a front tooth flew out of his mouth as he rolled in the dust, blood streaming everywhere. "Fuck!" the fat man roared, but saw no one coming to help. He yelled at the sleeping, thin man on the chair under the eaves. "Are you still fucking sleeping? Get up and help." "Shit, are you fucking deaf? You're like a dead man. Go get help." His words trailed off. He stared at the still unresponsive thin man, and his expression twisted from anger to sheer terror. He seemed to understand. His good buddy was truly dead. "Your boss. Who is he?" Ethan asked, unhurried, stepping up to him and looking down. The fat man tilted his head back, staring up at Ethan with dread. "Oh, Harvey Bao. Oh, so that makes you Fatty Bao, then? Ha!" Ethan laughed for a moment, then crouched down and pressed his lit cigarette into the fat man's cheek. Amidst a pig-like squeal of pain, Ethan sneered. "Tell me, what's his story?" As he finished speaking, Finn walked over calmly and stood by his side. "Kill them all?" Ethan asked deliberately. Finn nodded. "Yeah, all dead." The fat man's body convulsed, nearly fainting from fear. "Good boy," Ethan smiled. "Answer the question." The fat man's breathing was ragged. After a long moment, he spilled everything like beans from a jar. His cousin is a big shot at the Department of Transportation. He's been around for a long time, has a lot of connections. Anyway, I didn't know before, but in the 2 years I've been here, forget those truckers. Even rich guys like you have been scammed. No matter how they report it, we're always fine. If anyone makes a fuss, we can even pin a disorderly conduct charge on them. Mr. Bao is also a gangster. Don't be fooled by the five of us here tonight. During the day, this place is packed, a real den of scum. I'm just a gopher. Actually, we're all ex-cons. I wanted to turn my life around at first, but I couldn't resist the high salary, so I came here. But after I got here, I found out the pay is pathetic. All the money goes into the boss's pocket. And if you try to leave, he threatens you. No wonder you guys are so arrogant. Ethan said. Where is he? The fat man swallowed, tremblingly raising a hand and pointing to a steel-paneled shed in the distance. When he gets drunk, he usually sleeps there. Otherwise, he'll go home and fight with his wife. The moment he finished, Finn started walking toward the shed, but Ethan stopped him. He thought for a moment, then asked the fat man, "You're sure he's a gangster?" The fat man nodded like a bobblehead, his face a mask of misery. A real one. He doesn't just do this. He's a loan shark too. When he beats people, he doesn't hold back. They say he even has a few bodies on him. He's beaten me plenty of times. When he loses his temper, he even hits his own mother. The only person he's afraid of is his wife. To be honest, a few of us were just talking the other day, thinking about cracking his safe and running with the money. That Harvey, he's not human. He really treats us like dogs. He lifted his shirt, revealing several bruises on his back. See? He did this tonight when he was drunk. Ethan stroked his chin, thinking for a moment, then grinned. You know how to crack a safe? The fat man looked stunned, staring blankly at Ethan for a moment before nodding. I do. That's what I went to prison for, stealing. Good. Then I'll lend you some courage. Go crack a safe. Ethan smiled, then looked at Finn. Dispose of the bodies. Clean this place up. Finn was a little confused. It seemed his boss wasn't going to touch Harvey tonight, but he knew Ethan's nature. Even though he was desperate to find people right now, he would never use scum like Harvey's crew. He just didn't know what he was keeping them around for. The fat man was trembling. He knew Ethan wasn't short on cash. Harvey Bao checked his books every weekend and took all the money home. At most, there were 10 or 20,000 in that safe. Why would Ethan care about that? But he didn't dare ask. He shakily got to his feet and led Ethan toward Harvey Bao's shed. I'll cooperate fully. You have to let me go. I'm not a serial killer, Ethan said. Don't be scared. Just do as you're told. Finn, meanwhile, looked around, spotted a small excavator, and got an idea. He drove it to a nearby patch of wasteland and started digging a hole. After taking the money, just as the fat man was about to close the safe, Ethan stopped him. He deliberately made the room look like it had been robbed. Then he went into the adjoining room and looked at Harvey Bao, who was snoring like a freight train. A wicked smile touched his lips as he muttered, I'll let you live for a couple more days. The two of them left the shed and walked back to the workshop. The fat man looked at the big bag of cash in his hand, not a single dollar of which he could covet, and felt a storm of emotions. B-boss, I stole the money for you. You have to let me go. Anyway, even if I rat you out, Harvey Bao won't let me off. I'll just run. I promise no one will ever find me. I'll take what happened tonight to my grave. Not so fast. Do me one more favor, Ethan said with a faint smile. He walked into the workshop and pointed at the 3 corpses on the floor. Help me move them. The fat man's legs turned to jelly at the sight of the bodies. After a long moment, he steeled himself and started helping Ethan, all the while muttering, I'm cooperating so well. You have to let me go. I won't call the police. I won't betray you. Ethan couldn't be bothered to respond. After they moved all 3 bodies and cleaned up the blood, Finn had finished digging the pit. After throwing all the bodies into the pit, Finn turned and stared at the fat man. The man's spine went cold. He begged, I won't say anything. You guys. Ethan interrupted with a smile. Remember that thing I wanted to borrow from you earlier? You have to lend it to me. Anyway, people like you're going to hell sooner or later. With that, he kicked the fat man into the pit. After filling the hole, the 2 brothers covered it with some wild grass, restoring it to roughly its original state. Only then did they drive home. The next day, Ethan woke up early, but since it was the weekend and he had nothing to do, he went back to sleep. He slept until noon, then laid out his plan to Milo, who didn't hesitate and immediately recommended a few candidates. However, after a full afternoon of covertly vetting them one by one, Ethan found them all unsatisfactory. By now, it was getting dark, and he had to return empty-handed. He went to Isabel's apartment. As soon as he walked in, he heard someone bad-mouthing him. Isabel was sitting on the sofa, holding a small, palm-sized herbal pack against her sprained ankle. Her phone was propped up next to her on a video call with Zoe Russell. Izzy, I forgot to ask you today. That damn man of yours didn't mention physical therapy, did he? Let me tell you, you can't let him trick you. It's really painful. You can't do it. If anyone's going to do it, it should be him. Fry that cheating dog of a man. Isabel saw Ethan stride in, a smirk on his face, and she calmly reached for her phone to end the call. However, her hand was wet, and she couldn't tap the screen correctly. Zoe, the chatterbox doctor, didn't give her a chance to interrupt. I mean, how can he be such a player? Huh? Isn't he afraid of getting struck by lightning? A new bride every night. Does he have 8 kidneys? Hey, if we tricked him into going to Myanmar, he'd probably sell for a good price. He wants to sleep with every woman he sees. He's just like his old man. Just as she said that, the screen image suddenly flipped. Ethan's face appeared on the screen. Zoe, feigning calm while internally panicking, said, "Brother-in-law, I was just praising you. Just like your dad, brave and clever, rich and handsome, decisive and charismatic, and run out of things to make up," Ethan said with a wicked grin. I was speaking from the heart, not making it up. You can ask Izzy. I was praising you the whole time. Isabel said nothing. Oh, well, thank you. When I have time, I'll take you on a trip to Myanmar. No. Zoe shook her head like a drum. I'm really busy lately. Don't look for me if it's not important. I have to go get busy. I'll hang up now. Wait, mister. Not enough money. Come see me more often. It'd be best if he could come for treatment every day. It's for his own good, Bye, brother-in-law. Ethan couldn't help but laugh. He put down the phone and looked at Isabel, who was also trying not to laugh. He said in a seductive tone, "Honey, your best friend misunderstands me, and you're not going to explain?" "She sees you for who you are," Isabel said, then flustered, added, "Don't call me that." Ethan took his wife's hand, his eyes full of affection. "So, do you still think I'm that kind of person?" Isabel glanced up. "I don't know." Her gaze fell on a cardboard box Ethan had just brought in. "What's that?" "Oh, I forgot to mention. I need to request permission to enter your bedroom." Isabel was confused. Ethan pointed to the box. "I bought a projector. I'm going to install it in your room." "Why my room?" "So we can watch movies at home on the weekends. It's more convenient. So, from now on, you're going to come into my bedroom every week to watch movies. It'll help us bond. It's good for both of our conditions," Ethan said with a smile, getting up to grab the projector. "It's settled. I'm going to install it now. When you're done with your ankle, we can check it out together." Isabel was resistant. She frowned. "Can't we just watch in the living room? The living room is so big and bright. It ruins the atmosphere," Ethan said as he walked toward her bedroom. "Don't worry, I won't try anything. We're just watching a movie. I'll go back to my own room to sleep when it's over." Isabel was helpless. She pouted and said nothing, a feeling of having let the wolf into the house creeping into her heart. 20 minutes later, the beautiful woman finished with her ankle and walked into the bedroom. Ethan had already set up the projector and was brazenly lying on her bed, choosing a movie. When he saw her come in, he patted the pillow next to him and raised an eyebrow. "Wifey, come on up." Isabel was completely uncomfortable. We should still go to the living room. We made a deal. We're going to help each other with our therapy. Isn't this emotional blackmail?" "Hey," Ethan sat up. "I'll blackmail you for real." He scooped Isabel up and placed her on the bed. Isabel shot him a resentful look and slapped him on the back. "You're terrible. You have no sense of boundaries. Stay away from me." All right. Ethan nodded, but his body betrayed him, inching closer to her. He handed her the remote. "Here, you choose." Isabel glared at him and placed a pillow between them. She looked at the screen, which was on the romantic healing category. After a moment, she took the remote, navigated to the horror/thriller category, and began to choose carefully. Ethan was speechless. "Izzy, it's late. Let's watch a romance movie. That would be nice." Isabel slanted a look at him. "You scared? Me? Scared? Why would I be scared of this stuff? How could I be scared? You really underestimate me." A small smile tugged at the corner of Isabel's lips. She scrolled through a few pages and finally found a classic horror film, selecting it without a second thought. "Shudder? The Taiwan?" Ethan muttered. What's so good about this? How about Ghost? That movie has a ghost in it too." Isabel shook her head. "This one's good. The male lead is a real scumbag." She turned her head to look at Ethan, her expression serious. "A really, really scummy scumbag. This movie is a tragedy about a scumbag. It's very educational. It can teach all the scumbags in the real world to be better people." Ethan was speechless. Among all the horror films in the world, Shudder was definitely a top contender. The scene at the end, where the ghost appears on the man's neck, was considered a classic among classics, imitated by countless other films. However, Ethan had no courage to watch this famous scene. From the very beginning, he had wrapped himself tightly in the blanket. When a female ghost in the movie started pulling on the man's blanket in the middle of the night, he was so scared he squeezed Isabel's hand tightly. "Izzy, I'm a little tired. I'm going to go to sleep now." Isabel was holding back a laugh. You're not going to watch a little longer? Ethan got out of bed. I'm just really tired. Let's watch a romance movie tomorrow. Isabel shook her head, a hint of triumph in her eyes. Nope. From now on, I'm watching horror movies every day. Thank you for installing the projector for me. Ethan pouted. Then I'll come watch with you every day. Isabel readily agreed. Fine. Come if you want. Ethan gave a sheepish smile. You said it. Pinky swear. Isabel didn't think much of it. With his level of courage, he was going to come every day. She didn't hesitate to link pinkies and seal it with a thumb press, adding playfully, You sure you don't want to watch a little longer? No, you go ahead and watch. Ethan waved his hands repeatedly, but as he left the bedroom, he suddenly raised an eyebrow, a wicked smile on his face. He muttered to himself, Little thing, you think I can't handle you? And I have to say, that ghost was quite a looker. Easy on the eyes. It had to be said, you could question a horror movie director's ability, but you could never question their taste. The actresses who played female ghosts were almost always stunningly beautiful. When he returned to his own room and saw the neatly made bed and a new lamp on the nightstand, the shameless man was even more ecstatic. He buried his face in his pillow and laughed uncontrollably. For the entire weekend, Ethan was busy contacting candidates through Milo, only returning home at night to watch horror movies with Isabel. The shameless young master didn't rush to show his true colors. Every time a scary scene came on, he'd pretend to be about to piss his pants, tightly gripping Isabel's hand or hugging her arm. But he never went too far. As soon as the terrifying image on the screen faded, he would consciously let go, all while feigning a pained expression as if he were forcing himself to watch. Every time she saw him like this, the unsuspecting Isabel couldn't help but chuckle, and a small sense of pity and guilt would stir in her heart. She never noticed that during one particularly long, scary scene that lasted for over half a minute, Ethan's hand, clasped with hers, never let go. She would occasionally ask him if watching these things would trigger his psychological issues. Ethan's answer was always firm. No. In fact, that very afternoon, she had called Zoe Russell and roundaboutly asked the professional, worried that her antics might be making Ethan's condition worse. But Zoe, of course, saw right through her true intentions. After a lecture, she had reluctantly given a positive answer. No. Now, the movie was over, and it was almost midnight. Ethan looked relieved, but was actually reluctant to leave. He said to Isabel with a pained face, Izzy, tonight's movie, The Closet, is really getting to me. The closet in my room looks just like the one in the movie. I'm scared to sleep alone. How about? Isabel rolled her eyes at him. I knew it. Forcing yourself to watch horror movies with me. You definitely had ulterior motives. Humph. Don't force yourself. Tomorrow, I won't watch either. Don't do that. Ethan grinned. I'm leaving now. I won't disturb your sleep. We'll continue tomorrow. Good night. Isabel bit the inside of her lip, suppressing a laugh. Isabel bit the inside of her lip, suppressing a laugh. You sure you'll have the guts to watch tomorrow? Ethan puffed out his chest. I'll sleep in the closet tonight to build up my courage. Isabel burst out laughing. After a moment, she said, By the way, my foot is much better. I'm going back to the office tomorrow. You've been so tired lately, you should get some rest. The words, I'll go with you, were on the tip of Ethan's tongue, but he remembered he had his own business to attend to. He held back and asked, Is your foot really okay? Yes, you saw it. It's basically healed. As Isabel spoke, her expression dimmed. Tomorrow, I'm going to see Kimberly, then take her back to the company. Ethan took a breath. All right, then don't wear high heels. Tomorrow morning, I'll have Beanie drive you. Isabel hesitated, then nodded. Okay, good. The next morning, Isabel was woken by her alarm. She sat up, rubbing her sleepy eyes, and got out of bed. As she left her bedroom, she noticed the light in the kitchen was on. She glanced at the clock on the wall. It was only 6:40. Thinking back on the past 2 days since Ethan had moved in, how he had made her breakfast every morning before leaving, Isabel felt an indescribable warmth. A smile unconsciously touched her lips as she walked toward the kitchen. Inside, Ethan was wearing a pink apron without a hint of awkwardness, humming a cheerful indie pop song while grilling a steak. The corner of his eye caught the kitchen door opening. He turned his head and saw his wife, dressed in her pajamas, standing dazedly in the doorway, a faint blush on her cheeks, her eyes watching him with a quiet joy and a hint of shyness. Up so early? Ethan smiled, pouring warmed milk into a glass. Isabel nodded. I can heat my own milk. You don't have to get up so early. Ethan raised an eyebrow. In this day and age, you can hardly find any girls who know how to cook. I don't approve of that trend, mind you, but I never expected a silver spoon princess like you to know her way around a kitchen. See? You got lucky. You landed a husband who can cook. You should be happy about that. Isabel looked down. Who says I can't cook? I just live alone, so I'm too lazy to bother. Ethan's eyes lit up. Really? Those delicate fingers can handle kitchen work? I'll have to sample your cooking sometime. Isabel didn't answer. Isabel didn't answer. After a moment, she just said, thank you. Ethan smirked. Wifey right now. Don't we seem like we're just living life together? Isabel stared into his eyes. You'll get tired of it eventually. I don't want to make any promises. Those are just words for ghosts. A lifetime is long. I'll show you slowly. Isabel's face grew redder. She muttered, I'm going to go wash up, and turned to the bathroom. Standing in front of the mirror, she looked at her flushed cheeks and gently placed a hand over her chest. She could feel her heart beating just a little bit faster. After breakfast, Ethan walked Isabel down to the underground garage. He held her hand, fussing over her for a long time, reminding her of this and that. Beanie sat in the driver's seat, grinning like an idiot. He tried to sneak a picture with his phone, but his elbow accidentally hit the horn. Isabel immediately yanked her hand away from Ethan's, muttered, Shameless, and quickly got into the car. Beanie gave a sheepish grin, not daring to look at Ethan. Be boss, I'll go home tonight and kneel. Hee, I'll do it myself. As he watched the G-Wagon drive away, Ethan went back upstairs. He checked the time. It was still early, so he went to his room to read for a while. Around 10 o'clock, he sent a text to Milo. Call me when you're free. The message had just been sent when an unknown number suddenly called. Hello. Mr. Vance, it's Warren Hayes. Hope I'm not disturbing you this early. Hearing the name, Ethan frowned. What is it? Warren Hayes chuckled. Warren Hayes chuckled. The chairman said you'd be taking over soon and that I should report all work matters to you from now on. So, I was calling to ask if you're available to come to the office. I'll have all the senior executives wait for you to report in person. If not, I can give you a brief overview on the phone. Ethan sighed. Warren, Victor Vance said you're very capable, and I trust him. You have full authority over the company. Unless it's something urgent, you don't need to report to me. I don't have time to worry about your business right now. All right, I won't disappoint. I'll make sure this project is a stunning success. Ethan grunted in acknowledgement. Ethan grunted in acknowledgement. After a pause, he clicked his tongue. I remember Victor saying you have unusual ears, that you can hear ghosts talk. Is that true? Warren Hayes gave a sheepish laugh. Mr. Vance, you're teasing me. Ethan chuckled. Just keep an ear out. Ethan chuckled. Just keep an ear out. Listen and see if any of those ghosts have any harmful intentions. If they do, let me know immediately. And you should be prepared to respond. Yes. Warren Hayes agreed profusely. On that point, Mr. Vance, you can rest assured. The chairman has been incredibly gracious to me, and I will repay his kindness with my life. Ethan cursed with a laugh. To hell with repaying kindness with your life. Warren, if you ever talk to me with that kind of slick double talk again, I'll have a word with you about your job performance. Warren Hayes was silent. Job performance? What the hell does that mean? After hanging up, Ethan checked his phone. Milo hadn't replied yet. He was probably busy. Just as he was thinking, Jax called. Boss, Leo Bishop's blonde kid just called me. He said Leo's in some trouble and wants your help. Ethan was taken aback. Leo wasn't the type to beat around the bush. If he was in trouble, why didn't he call himself? Jax continued. Leo's phone is off. His guys can't reach him either. Jax continued. Leo's phone is off. His guys can't reach him either. They've been looking for him for days and didn't have your number, so they called me. As for what happened, hell if I know. The blonde kid has a thick accent. I couldn't really understand him. I think he said one of Leo's guys was beaten to death, and Leo went for revenge. Maybe we should meet them. Ethan didn't hesitate. Tell them to wait. I'm going to Bayside Drive. Leo had helped him a lot in the past. Even though he'd paid him well, a favor was a favor. Now that Leo was in trouble, how could he stand by and do nothing? Are you going alone? Jax asked. Finding people is something I can help with. You stay with Kimberly. I'll go check out the situation first. No need. The boss lady just got here. She's counseling her now. They're probably heading to the company soon. Kimberly's been doing better these last 2 days. I'll have Finn come pick me up. We can head over together. Save you the trip. All right. Ethan hung up and tried calling Leo again. Still off. A bunch of petty thieves. How did they get involved in a homicide? Ethan sighed, changed his clothes, and headed for Leo Bishop's lounge on Bayside Drive. A small wooden sign reading closed hung on the lounge door. The blonde kid and a few other guys were squatting by the entrance, smoking. Their faces were pale, their eyes bloodshot. They clearly hadn't slept well for days. When they saw Ethan arrive, they rushed over. "Mr. Vance." The blonde kid's face was clouded with worry. "You have to help us find Leo. We can't let him do something stupid." Ethan took out a pack of cigarettes, passed them around, and lit one for himself. "First, tell me what happened." The blonde kid's face was grim. "One of our guys on his birthday the night before last, he was beaten to death. He had just turned 20. "Who did it?" Ethan asked. "Give me the details." The blonde kid nodded. "Our buddy's name was Beanie. It was his 20th birthday, so we were all celebrating at a karaoke bar. Around 3 in the morning, we were done singing. Leo was already drunk, so a few guys took him home. Me and Beanie, we weren't done drinking, so we went to a roadside grill for some barbecue and more beers. I never thought." At this, the blonde kid shivered, his eyes filled with terror. We were halfway through our food, maybe around 3:30, when more than 30 security guards suddenly rushed down the street, all of them carrying weapons. At the time, Beanie and I were thinking, these guys look vicious like gangsters. Who are they going to fight? But then, they came straight for us. Beanie and I had no time to react. They rushed over, swung their clubs, and hit Beanie right on the head. I saw it clearly. The club, it had nails sticking out of it, like a mace. They weren't there to fight. They were there to kill. The blonde kid's hands were ice cold, so shaky he could barely hold his cigarette. Ethan's brow tightened. He gently patted the kid's arm. "Don't be afraid. Keep going." The kid swallowed hard, taking a long moment to compose himself. My mind went blank. He trembled. One of the guards hit me with a club and told me to get lost if I didn't want to die. I was really scared. There were more than 30 of them. I could only hide to the side and watch as they beat Beanie to death. It didn't even take a minute. His organs were spilling out, his brain splattered all over the ground. Ethan took a deep breath. "How did you guys get tangled up with a bunch of killers like that?" The blonde kid shook his head. "We don't know them. We really don't. After they beat him, they just casually walked away. I immediately called Leo. When the guys got there, they were all terrified too. We called the police right away, but when they were brought in, they actually said it was a case of mistaken identity, a man's life, and all they have is a casual, we got the wrong guy. And there were no security cameras at the scene. They only arrested a few of the thugs." Later, Leo did some digging. "That crew, they're from a security company. They have a contract with the city district office, something about maintaining public order. But really, they're just a debt collection agency. Those guys are all company enforcers. Their boss is a loan shark named Harvey Bao." "Who?" Ethan's eyes suddenly lit up. "Harvey Bao." The blonde kid was stunned. "Mr. Vance, you know him?" Ethan couldn't help but find it hilarious. What were the odds? He'd spared Harvey Bao's life a few days ago, planning to use him as a sacrifice to launch his own chosen candidate onto the scene. And now, this guy was practically gift-wrapping himself for him. "I've just heard the name," Ethan said with a faint smile. "Keep going." The blonde kid gritted his teeth, his eyes red. "That Harvey Bao has powerful connections. Years ago, he beat someone to death in broad daylight. The media was all over at the time, and the case was resolved quickly. He was sentenced to life. But once the story faded from the public eye, his backers started pulling strings. Within 2 years, he got his sentence reduced by 21 years. 21 years. He was out in no time. Leo knew he couldn't mess with him, and that no one would give a bunch of petty thieves like us justice. But he couldn't let his brother die for nothing. The night before last, we were trying to figure out how to get revenge. Leo said we couldn't afford to lose any more guys, and that a head-on fight was out of the question. We had to be smart. But when we woke up the next morning, he was gone. His phone was off. We knew he didn't want to involve us, that he'd gone after Harvey Bao alone. As he finished, another young man with an average-looking face spoke up. "Mr. Vance, my specialty is tailing people. I followed Harvey Bao all day and night yesterday. I just got back and had another guy take over. So far, there's been no sign of Leo making a move. Mr. Vance, you have to help us find him. We can't let him do something stupid." Ethan clicked his tongue. "You guys, why didn't you call me right away?" The blonde kid lowered his head. "Leo said you always told him to stay away from you, so he didn't want to bother you." Sigh. Ethan sighed, mumbling, "This Leo, he really has the makings of a boss." Just then, Finn and Jax arrived. They listened as the blonde kid gave them the gist of it and were equally furious. "On the way here, I was thinking it would be hard to find Leo with his phone off, Jack said. But now it seems we don't have to rush. We just have to keep an eye on Harvey Bao. Ethan nodded. He asked Finn, did you bring the tools? Finn replied, I heard someone died. I brought some. Ethan looked at the average-faced kid. Ask your replacement where Harvey Bao is now. The kid quickly made a call. He's at the detective squad. Ethan considered for a moment. You guys get some rest, get your strength back. Leo is definitely watching Harvey Bao, looking for a chance to strike. No matter when he does it, this Harvey guy, I won't let him live to see tomorrow morning. I'll bring Leo back to you in one piece. The blonde kid and the others looked at each other. Setting aside Ethan's background, just based on his feat of taking on a dozen men in the garage and killing a whole elevator full of people, there was no reason to doubt his words. He gritted his teeth. Mr. Vance, we're coming with you. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Not scared anymore. The blonde kid was overcome with shame and lowered his head, silent. Ethan smiled and patted his shoulder. In that situation, fear is only human, especially when you're alone and unarmed. Don't blame yourself. Tonight, I'll help you guys grow a pair. He then looked at the average-faced kid. Have your man tail Harvey Bao all day. Tell him to be careful not to get spotted. We can't be too brazen in broad daylight. We have to wait until tonight to make our move. Understood? Yes, Mr. Vance. We'll listen to you. An hour later, under the guise of bringing his sister lunch, Ethan arrived at the detective squad headquarters. In reality, he was just bored and wanted to check on the progress of the case. Inside, Eva Vance was at her wit's end. The city district director they had brought in for questioning was just deflecting blame, distancing himself from Harvey Bao, and occasionally dropping the police chief's name to pressure her. I've made myself very clear. We signed an outsourcing agreement with a security company to maintain public order. This homicide has nothing to do with us. It was the personal actions of their security company. You should be arresting them. Why are you questioning me? Do you have any idea how busy I am? I work overtime every day, tirelessly serving the community, and this is how you treat me? I'm going to have a long talk with your chief. Harvey Bao, on the other hand, was defiant and arrogant. We were also maintaining public order. We got a report of a disturbance on the street, and our men rushed over. The conflict wasn't something we wanted. This whole thing was an accident. I'll pay compensation. Isn't that enough? Eva's hands were trembling with rage. A man's life? And you think you can just pay some money and walk away? Harvey Bao snorted. Then what do you want me to do? You've arrested the people you needed to arrest. You want me to give my life for his? Officer, do you even know the law? The witness statements clearly say there were more than 30 assailants. Eva said angrily. You think you could just pick a few guys to take the fall, and that's it? Harvey Bao's eyes widened. He says 30, so it's 30? Huh. If he said 1,000,000, would you believe that too? If you have evidence, then arrest me. Don't just yell at me. You cops think you're so high and mighty? You got loud voices? Fucking brainless. Though Harvey Bao was always arrogant, he wasn't usually this out of control. But right now, he was extremely agitated and couldn't control his temper. Just 2 days ago, his men had robbed his safe while he was drunk and run off with all his cash. He hadn't even had time to track them down, and now his enforcers had caused more trouble. It had started as a minor squabble. One of his guys, drunk, had gotten into a shouting match with a young man on the street. Since he was alone, he hadn't dared to get too aggressive. But back at the dorm, he couldn't let it go, so he gathered a big crew and went out to maintain order. But he was too drunk, got the wrong person, and ended up killing Beanie. But whether it was the right person or not, the evil committed by this pack of animals was beyond just appalling. They treated human life like grass, which showed just how arrogant and tyrannical they usually were, a true plague on the community. What did you say? Eva was furious, grabbing Harvey Bao by the collar. Unexpectedly, Harvey Bao played the victim, immediately shouting, "Assault! Is anyone going to do anything? The police are beating people." The precinct devolved into chaos. The squad captain had to step in to restore order. Eva was gritting her teeth. She happened to glance over and see Ethan leaning against the entrance to the main office hall. She took a deep breath and strode over. "I told you I'm busy and don't have time to eat. Why are you here?" Ethan handed her the lunchbox. "Eat a few bites. There are too many bad guys in the world. You can't catch them all. I don't have an appetite." Eva was still fuming, but when Ethan opened the box and handed her the chopsticks, she didn't really refuse. She started eating, her usual poise forgotten. A moment later, the beautiful detective looked up at Ethan, her eyes suspicious. "You're being unusually attentive. Why are you really here?" Ethan reached out and gently tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, smiling. "I came to see my dear sister." "What else?" Eva had a bad feeling. She looked back at Harvey Bao, her suspicion growing. "Do you know him?" "Me?" Ethan smirked. "Why would I know a scumbag like that?" You really need to stop seeing me as a bad guy. I'm your brother, you know. Heh, now eat. It's getting cold. Eva was skeptical. It was completely out of character for Ethan to bring her lunch, but she didn't think her brother would be involved with the likes of Harvey Bao. Could it be because she hadn't ratted him out over the Martin Marshall case, and that had brought them closer? After finishing her food, Eva shooed him away. Go on, get out of here. I'm busy. Ethan nodded. Just as he was about to speak, Harvey Bao swaggered out, followed by several of his thuggish-looking men. As he passed Eva, he paused, held up his hands as if in handcuffs, and sneered, "Officer, are you arresting me or not? If not, I'm leaving." Eva suppressed her rage, glaring at him. Arrest him? With what? The incident happened late at night, with no cameras nearby. The few witnesses who were there had initially said in their statements that they saw a large group of people involved, but by the next morning they had all changed their stories, saying they only saw the 3 or 4 who were arrested and a couple of others trying to break it up. The foul play was obvious. Ha ha ha. Harvey Bao laughed loudly as he left. Ethan stared at his back, his eyes mocking and sinister, as if he were looking at a dead man. Night fell. Harvey Treasure, Bao, and his crew were entertaining the district supervisor at the karaoke bar, a man who never missed an opportunity to declare how he was working himself to the bone for the city. The supervisor was in his 50s with thinning hair. If he hadn't spent so much time bleeding his heart out in establishments like this, he might have looked a few years younger. The party raged until 1 in the morning, by which point the real business was settled. It was simple. The few men who had been arrested would take the fall. The necessary palms had been greased, the right strings pulled. Once the heat died down, the contracting agreement would be re-signed under a different name. Harvey was satisfied. His part of the business was done, which meant it was time for the supervisor to get to his business. He called in a pair of VIP hostesses for the man, then tactfully led his underlings out of the room. They headed for the secluded repair shop just off the state highway on the outskirts of the city. Perhaps the liquor at the club hadn't been enough to drown his worries. Once they arrived at the shop, Harvey held a meeting, assigning his men to hire new mechanics and track down the ones who had supposedly run off with his money. Then he sent someone out for more booze, intending to drink himself into a stupor. As it happened, the men sent to buy liquor stumbled upon one of Leo Bishop's subordinates tailing them. After a brief chase, they knocked him out with a couple of solid thuds from a tire iron and dragged him back to the shop. When Harvey saw the captured spy, he recognized him instantly as one of Leo's guys. "Are you following me?" he sneered. "What's this? Trying to get revenge for that little buddy of yours?" "Ha ha." The man's face was a bloody mess. He trembled as he scanned the yard, counting at least 20 or 30 of Harvey's thugs. It was the middle of the night in a desolate, remote location. He was terrified that Beanie's gruesome fate was about to be replayed on him. "Where's your boss, Leo?" Harvey said with a cold smile. "Doesn't he call himself the little king of Bayside Drive? Since he sent a useless piece of crap like you to follow me, he must be looking for a fight. Call him. Tell him to get over here. I'll be happy to play with him." Leo's man swallowed hard, forcing a fawning expression onto his bruised face. "H. Harvey, boss, his phone's off. He's probably scared of you." "Ha ha." Harvey roared with laughter. "Serves you right for following a boss like that. You're not wrong." The man wiped the blood from his face and offered a placating smile. "I've actually been thinking. I want to work for you. We're all just trying to make a living. It's better to follow a capable boss than a coward like him. He told me to follow you last night, rambling about getting revenge for Beanie, but then his phone went off. I couldn't reach him. Tonight, I finally saw him for the gutless fraud he is, just putting on a show for his men. So, I came here to pledge my loyalty, but I was afraid you wouldn't have me. I was hesitating outside when you guys. It's a misunderstanding. A complete misunderstanding." "Oh, you want to switch sides? What makes you think you're worthy?" Harvey said mockingly. "I don't keep useless mouths to feed. I have important intel for you." Harvey chuckled. Just then, one of the thugs who had brought the spy back spoke up. "Boss, look, this earpiece is his." The lights still blinking. Harvey took the earpiece and put it in his ear. Silence. He shot a cold glare at Leo's man. "Phone, out." The man obediently complied, handing over his phone, which showed an active call. He dialed Ethan the moment he was caught, but before he could say a word, he'd been knocked out. The call had never disconnected. "Boss, the person on the phone is the backup Leo hired," the man said, getting up and slowly approaching Harvey, the very picture of a desperate turncoat eager to prove his worth. Harvey stared at the unknown number on the screen and tentatively said, "Hello," twice. No response. "Not gonna talk? Then you listen up. Your old man Harvey is waiting for you at the repair shop. If you got the guts then." He didn't finish. Seizing the moment when everyone's attention was on the phone, Leo's man whipped a small knife out of his pocket and lunged, stabbing straight for Harvey's heart. "Boss, look out!" one of the thugs yelled, yanking Harvey back just as another kicked Leo's man. Harvey dodged by a hair's breadth, the blade slicing into his arm instead of his chest. "Motherfucker!" A swarm of thugs descended on the man, kicking and punching him into the dirt. Harvey glanced at his bleeding left arm, disconnected the Bluetooth earpiece, and put the phone on speaker. "Leo, that's you, right? Ha ha! You gutless turtle. I know you don't have the balls to show up yourself, so listen carefully. I'm about to have some fun with your little friend here." Just as he finished, Ethan's voice came through the phone, clear and cold. "This has nothing to do with him. Don't touch him. I'll play with you. Give me 5 minutes. I'm almost there." Harvey froze for a second, then grabbed a beer bottle from the table and smashed it over the man's head. He laughed into the phone. "You better hurry. I don't think your little buddy is going to last long enough for you to get here." He didn't hang up. He set the phone aside, wanting the backup Leo hired to hear every last one of his subordinates' agonizing screams. "Harvey Bao, you son of a bitch, you killed our brother. I'll haunt you from my grave." Leo's man was just a petty thief who rarely got into fights. He was small in build and even smaller in courage. But fueled by hatred, his bravery swelled. Harvey snorted and broke 3 more bottles over the man's head. He turned to his best fighters. "Grab your tools. I want to see what kind of backup that coward Leo could possibly find." At that exact moment, a figure shot out of the darkness. "Harvey Bao, you motherfucker. Touch my brother again and see what happens." It was Leo Bishop. In one hand, he held a pistol. In the other, a grenade. He had appeared in the middle of the repair shop yard like a deus ex machina. His subordinate's head was ringing, stars dancing in his vision. Through the dim light of the yard, he saw his boss holding a pistol and a grenade and figured the beating had been so severe he was hallucinating. Harvey frowned, genuinely baffled. Where the hell did a crew of petty thieves get military-grade hardware? The rest of his men froze, their assault on Leo's man forgotten. They stood there, stunned. Leo charged into the yard, glanced at his blood-soaked man, and stopped at the edge of the light, about 20 feet away. He leveled a gun at Harvey. "Harvey Bao, let my man go, and we can talk about Beanie later." The lighting was poor, so Harvey couldn't quite make out Leo's expression, but he could see several more grenades clipped to his belt. He didn't dare make a rash move. With a strained smile, he said, "Leo, been a while. You've really stepped up your game." As he spoke, he glanced around, a sense of unease creeping in. The guy on the phone was Leo's backup. Why weren't they together? "Cut the crap. Let him go," Leo roared. Harvey ground his teeth. "You think I'm easily scared? Huh? Do you even know how to use that thing? Do you know how a grenade works?" Leo didn't waste words. He pulled the pin from the grenade, holding the handle down tightly as he thrust it forward. "I've never cooked a steak, but I've seen a grill. Your name is Harvey, right? Let my brother come over here, and I'll toss this thing far away. We'll just listen to the boom. Otherwise, I'll toss it into your little group, and you can all get a good listen." A few of the thugs were already panicking, subconsciously taking a few steps back. Harvey's mind raced, weighing his options. Leo yelled, "Are you deaf? I'm telling you, I don't want to blow this out of proportion. So don't push me. You think numbers matter? I got 6 more of these on me. If my hand slips and this one drops, we're all going down together." Harvey clenched his fists, glaring at Leo. "Let him go." A couple of thugs scrambled to help the injured man to his feet. His injuries were severe. He stumbled and crawled toward Leo. "Boss." Just as he reached him, he tripped. Seeing his man about to fall, Leo instinctively reached out to catch him. In that split second, the live grenade, pin already pulled, slipped from his grasp and fell to the ground. Harvey and his men stared, their minds going blank. They scrambled backward, tripping over each other in a desperate panic. "It's over," Leo muttered to himself. He gritted his teeth and, in a fit of desperation, unclipped all the remaining grenades from his belt and hurled them into the crowd. "Motherfucker, are you insane?" Harvey saw a grenade land near his feet and felt as if he was staring death in the face. But in the next instant, the grenade at Leo's feet started to play a children's song. The wheels on the bus go round and round. Then, all the other grenades scattered across the ground opened like lotus-shaped birthday candles. A little plastic figure popped out of each one, swaying back and forth as it sang, "Round and round, round and round." In an instant, the murderous atmosphere of the repair shop was filled with a cheerful, tinkling melody. The thugs, who had been scrambling for their lives, froze in place, utterly dumbfounded. Harvey numbly picked up one of the children's grenades, which was now flashing with colored lights. He finally understood. Leo had stood so far away to keep him from seeing the toys for what they were in the dim light. 7 children's toys had sent 30 grown men running for their lives. If word of this got out, how could he ever show his face on the streets again? You son of a bitch. You played me. Harvey was incandescent with rage. He looked up, but Leo and his man had already vanished through the front gate. After them. I'm going to skin them alive. You idiot. Who told you to come here? Leo demanded, half supporting his subordinate as they ran. I told you I was going to use strategy, you moron. Why do you have to mess everything up? Harvey was drinking tonight. Once he passed out, I would have had him. You ever seen a gangster movie? How do they get the boss? Huh? You think Harvey Bao is tougher than Al Pacino? You really screwed this up. The man gritted his teeth against the pain. The guys were all worried about you, so. He glanced at the pistol in Leo's hand and frowned. Is that fake, too? Of course it's fake. Where the hell would I get a real gun? Leo cursed, throwing the pistol-shaped lighter as far as he could. Yesterday, after resolving to go after Harvey alone to avenge Beanie, Leo had turned off his phone and staked out Harvey's movements, waiting for the right opportunity to strike. He had noticed his own men tailing Harvey, but he knew them well enough to know they were just worried. They didn't have the guts to actually make a move, so he hadn't bothered to intervene. He bought his equipment at a department store for a few $dozen, thinking it would be a good emergency bluff to scare off Harvey's thugs if he managed to get his target, but got cornered. He never expected his brilliant strategic plan would be upended at the last second. He had followed Harvey from the karaoke bar to the repair shop, only to find his own man being beaten to a pulp. He had no choice but to abandon his plan and reveal himself. His subordinate's head was bleeding from multiple cuts. Just as he was about to tell Leo that Ethan was on his way, Harvey's men caught up to them. Damn it. You run. I'll hold him off. Leo pulled a long machete from his sleeve, spun around, and faced the oncoming mob with a look of grim determination. The subordinate shook his head violently. Boss, you go. My legs hurt. I can't run. I'll stop them, mister. Before he could finish, Leo charged forward. Get out of here. My car's just up ahead. The keys are in it. The subordinate clenched his jaw, praying for Ethan to arrive, and charged forward himself. You're my boss. If we die together. 30 against 2. The outcome was never in doubt. Leo had a certain ferocity, and he managed to cut down 3 or 4 men before being brought down with a pair of steel pipes. His subordinate didn't even make it to the fight before he stumbled and fell again. By the time he tried to get up, Harvey's crew had surrounded them. Son of a bitch. Harvey, now wielding a crude, nail-studded club, stormed up to Leo and jabbed at his head. The wheels on the bus go round and round. Huh? Tell me, what do they do? Leo's face was a mask of fury. He glared up at him. Go to hell. You dog, you got the balls to fight me one-on-one. One-on-one? Ha ha. Harvey scoffed. What decade are you living in? Besides, he sneered. Do you recognize this club? Oh, right, you weren't there. This little beauty had a hand in killing that buddy of yours. Ha ha. Leo's eyes turned crimson. He was speechless with rage. Harvey continued his taunts. Since I'm responsible for maintaining public order, I can't let the taxpayers' money go to waste. Leo, you and your little gang of thieves all deserve a taste of this. You son of a bitch. I admit I couldn't kill you. Let my man go, and you can do whatever you want with me. Are you dreaming? Harvey kicked Leo hard. Making demands? Heh, you're all going to die. With that, Harvey gripped the club with both hands and raised it high. Before he could bring it down, several bright headlights pierced the darkness from a distance. The faint silhouettes of several cars could be seen speeding toward them. Harvey paused, figuring it must be the backup Leo had called. He decided not to deliver the killing blow just yet, instead bringing the club down on Leo's back a few times. Let's see what kind of heavenly army you managed to summon. Leo roared in pain, turning his head to see the approaching cars. As they drew closer, he recognized them as belonging to his own men. Those morons. They all came here to die. Leo fumed internally. He tried to get up to warn them to run, but Harvey kicked him in the head, sending him sprawling. A moment later, 3 cars screeched to a halt. Leo's men poured out, their faces contorted with rage when they saw their boss pinned under Harvey's foot. Are you brainless? Who told you to come? Leo screamed. Get the hell out of here. Just then, 3 figures emerged from the last car. They all wore baseball caps and face masks, revealing only their eyes. Each wore a pair of white gloves and carried an assault rifle. Leo frowned, studying them, the build of one of the men. It looked like Mr. Vance? What was he doing here? Tears welled in Leo's eyes. He figured his men must have called him. Mr. Vance really did see him as one of his own. He told him to call if he ever needed anything, and he hadn't been lying. Harvey stared at the 3 men and their rifles and burst out laughing. Still trying to pull the same trick? Huh, you really think I'm a 3-year-old? Toy grenades and pistols were one thing, but assault rifles? You think you're a death squad? You idiots can't even act. Ha ha ha. The rest of the thugs joined in the laughter, apparently having forgotten the terror they'd felt just moments before. Ethan ignored Harvey's barking. He strode forward and looked at Leo. Boss, you okay? Leo was so moved he was about to cry. I'm fine, boss. Before he could process it, Ethan's gaze snapped to Harvey. Harvey, he said, his voice like ice. Did you know that Boss Leo here is the head of the East Side Syndicate? Leo, did I die and get reincarnated in a parallel universe? He had often fantasized about making a name for himself, recruiting talent, and building his own crew. The name had to be powerful, the East Side Syndicate, but he lacked the skills and connections, and his men were just petty crooks. The fantasy remained just that, something to brag about to his underlings when he was drunk. Did these guys seriously tell Mr. Vance about that nonsense? Leo's tear-streaked face froze. He felt a pang of embarrassment. What a time for Mr. Vance to be joking around. Harvey blinked dumbly, then exploded with laughter. The East Side Syndicate? The head? Ha ha! Leo, are your men aspiring actors? Watch too many gangster movies? You show up in 3 beat-up, second-hand cars and try to play mobster with me? Ha ha! Fine, fine. The East Side Syndicate. I like it. I've decided I'm going to use that name from now on. Ha ha! Boys, let's get him. His men started moving toward Ethan and his team. One of the thugs who had been so terrified by the fake grenade that he'd wet himself swaggered forward, cursing. The hell is this? Still carrying fake guns? Why didn't you bring some more grenades, you motherfuckers? Finn took a step forward, pulled a real grenade from his pocket, and said calmly, How did you know I had one? We were in a hurry, though. I only brought one. Ethan took a quick step back and called out to Leo, Boss, head down, cover your ears. The words had barely left his mouth before Finn pulled the pin and tossed the grenade. Seeing them go through with the act so seriously, Harvey was laughing so hard he was bent over. Some people die for love. You guys are going to die for the act. The thug who had been shouting caught the grenade with an expert snatch, showing no fear. Oh, this one even smokes, huh? This. Boom. The sudden explosion left everyone stunned. Harvey stared at the man who had been blown to bits and the 7 or 8 others screaming on the ground, his mind completely blank. The smile was frozen on his face, his features as immobile as a stone carving. Leo's jaw was on the floor. He knew Mr. Vance was on another level, but he never imagined this level. No discussion, just straight to explosives. The few of Leo's men who had come with Ethan, despite being mentally prepared, were badly shaken. One with a weaker stomach was already bent over, vomiting. Seeing a few of Harvey's thugs turn to run, Finn and Jax showed no mercy, raising their rifles and firing. Running? Keep running. Everyone on the ground, hands on your head. Ethan roared. The command finally broke Harvey out of his trance. He scrambled to obey, crouching with his hands on his head. He was shaking so violently his legs gave out, and he collapsed onto his ass. In just a few seconds, a cold sweat had broken out on his forehead. Ethan, holding his rifle in one hand with the barrel pointed to the sky, strolled over to Leo and helped him up. Boss, you okay? Leo. Though he didn't know what Ethan's plan was, the look in his eyes suggested he wasn't joking. He was probably trying to protect his identity. Mr. Vance was always cautious. Besides, Beanie was his own brother. For Mr. Vance to come help was already a tremendous favor. He couldn't let them be implicated. Having figured this out, Leo slipped into character instantly. He said angrily, What took you so long? You waiting for Christmas? I sent you to get the hardware, not take a vacation. To hell with it. None of you are working for me anymore. Ethan paused, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. He played along, feigning timidity. Boss, you can't blame us. The plan was to wait for us before you made a move, right? Leo tried to puff out his chest into a domineering, boss-like posture, but the pain in his back made him grimace. After taking a couple of breaths, he pointed at the subordinate who Harvey had brained with a bottle. If it wasn't for this screw-up who can't do anything right, I wouldn't have had to risk my own neck. Oomph. Leo's own men were completely bewildered. They understood the words being spoken, but given who was saying them, nothing made sense. Finn and Jax finished off the wounded and stunned thugs, then stood guard over the remaining captives, their rifles radiating an oppressive aura of fear. For years, Harvey's crew had been the local tyrants, the quintessential bullies. They'd beat someone up for looking at them funny. Preying on the weak was second nature. They never imagined a day like this would come. Compared to this East Side Syndicate, their own operation was like child's play. In this world, truly good men don't commit evil, and truly evil men don't bother with petty wickedness. The ones who spent their days terrorizing their neighbors and bullying the honest were just third-rate scum who thought they were big shots. The moment they ran into a real predator, they all turned into whimpering cowards. "Boss," Ethan said, guiding Leo a short distance away and lowering his voice. "Beanie's revenge. I can take care of it for you. Or do you want to do it yourself?" Leo's mouth opened, and he gritted his teeth. "Beanie was my brother. I'll do it myself. Today. Thank you, Mr. V." Before he could finish, Ethan cut him off. "Leo, if you do this yourself, there's no turning back. Think it through." Leo's resolve was firm. "I've already done time for manslaughter. This time, that bastard Harvey killed my brother. I don't mind getting my hands dirty again. There's no turning back from where I am now." Ethan was silent for a moment, then clapped Leo on the shoulder with a faint smile. "I wasn't wrong about you. Then go do what you have to do. Afterward, I have something I need to talk to you about." Leo was puzzled, but he had more pressing matters to attend to. He nodded, then strode toward Harvey, picking up the nail-studded club that had killed Beanie along the way. "Boss, a misunderstanding. It was all a misunderstanding. Your brother. We really made a mistake. I'll pay you. 800,000. No, 1.8 million. Please, I'm begging you, don't kill me." Harvey was white with terror, pleading for his life. He pointed at several of his own men. "It was them. They did it too. You can kill them. I don't care. Grandpa Leo, please let me go. I'll never do anything wrong again." Violence, it seemed, was the fastest way to make a wicked man drop his butcher's knife and become a Buddha. Leo sneered. "My brother's life can't be measured in money. You piece of shit. I hadn't even asked you what the wheels on the bus do, and you're already trying to answer." With that, he swung the club and brought it down hard on Harvey's head. It only took 2 hits. Harvey was dead, but the revenge was only half complete. Leo, clearly not expecting Harvey to be so fragile, continued to bludgeon the corpse until it was in the same horrific state as Beanie. Then he turned on the 4 thugs Harvey had pointed out, his strikes merciless. Leo's own men watched, and though they felt a sense of vindication, they were also terrified. They stared, swallowing hard. This was how it always was with petty thugs. They talked big about killing people, but when it came time to actually do it, they found their backbones were softer than a wet noodle. Jack saw this and sidled up to Ethan, speaking quietly in English. "None of his guys are worth a damn. Boss, are you sure you want to use Leo?" Ethan took a drag from his cigarette and said nothing. After killing his enemies, Leo looked at the dozen or so remaining thugs, all crying and begging for their lives. He instinctively glanced at Ethan. He knew they all had to be silenced, but this was his first real massacre, and he found he couldn't bring himself to do it. Why wasn't Mr. Vance helping him? One burst from the rifle, and it would all be over. Under the threat of the assault rifles, the thugs wouldn't dare resist. They were all wailing about how they weren't there, how it had nothing to do with them. Just then, Ethan spoke up. "Boss, since it has nothing to do with them, let's let them go." Leo turned to look at Ethan. Before he could speak, Ethan walked toward the thugs. "I trust that, having survived this, you won't be running your mouths, will you?" Hearing there was a way out, the thugs practically swore on their ancestors' graves. No, I didn't see anything tonight. I was at home sleeping tonight. I don't know any of these people. I don't know anyone." Ethan gave a mocking smile and said to Leo, "Boss, our organization is just starting out. We shouldn't be too ruthless. It's bad for our reputation. Otherwise, it'll be hard to make it on the streets." Being called boss so many times by Ethan felt incredibly awkward. Leo coughed lightly, then roared at the thugs, "Get out of here, and don't ever let me see you again." The thugs, granted a reprieve, offered profuse thanks, and fled for their lives. With these living, breathing loudspeakers, the reputation of the East Side Syndicate would probably be ringing through the underworld before sunrise. "Leo, come with me. I have something to tell you," Ethan said, slinging an arm over Leo's shoulder. Then he turned to Finn and Jax. "You two take Leo's men and clean this place up. Leave no trace." Meanwhile, back at the club, the district supervisor, a hostess on each arm, was deep in his cups and having the time of his life. Though past 50, his fighting spirit was as fierce as ever. What was that old saying? To die in a woman's arms is a romantic way for a ghost to go. He just probably never imagined that this time he was really going to die in a woman's arms. Downstairs, Eva Vance, dressed in casual clothes, strode through the front door. Though she wasn't wearing a single designer brand, her natural beauty was undeniable. The security guards at the door were smitten, swallowing hard. The manager, who was flirting with the receptionist at the front desk, had no time for lovesickness. He ducked behind the bar. He'd been arrested by Eva before for a public brawl and recognized the beautiful detective instantly. Back then, Relying on his years of experience with women and his own good looks, he'd foolishly dreamed of trying to win her over. It would have been a great story to tell. But after doing some digging, he found out she used to be a narcotics officer and, more importantly, learned of her family's staggering background. The manager, a casual drug user himself, immediately extinguished that flame. Now, the sight of her made him feel like a mouse seeing a cat. Victor Vance had only himself to blame for his daughter's animosity. Because Victor had heartlessly abandoned her mother, leading to her death from grief, Eva had grown to despise the Vance family. After graduating from the police academy, she immediately became a narcotics officer and cut all ties with them. But Victor, worried for her safety, tried unsuccessfully to persuade her to change jobs. He ended up pulling some strings behind the scenes to have her transferred to the detective squad, which only made their relationship even more strained. After the transfer, Eva spent her free time in the archives, digging through old cold cases. As she dug, she discovered that a surprising number of unsolved cases could be linked back to the Vance family. And so, she embarked on a long, arduous path of bringing her own family to justice. But the path was destined to be a long one. With the Vance family's resources, how could they possibly let her get her hands on any solid evidence? It was a pity for her old father. Not only was his kindness seen as a betrayal, but also made him his own daughter's #1 target. At least he had his little angel Lucy now, which was some consolation. One could only wonder if that little girl would also disown him when she grew up. Seeing Eva get into the elevator, the lobby manager frantically radioed the staff upstairs. He told them to warn all the madams to be on their best behavior and get rid of any contraband. Eva wasn't in uniform and hadn't brought a team, but for this notoriously incorruptible Iron Lady to show up at a place like this, it could only mean trouble. The madams upstairs were caught off guard. Every time the cops came for a raid, the owner got a heads up. Why was this so sudden? But there was no time to wonder. Ignoring the clients in the middle of their trysts, they ran from room to room, knocking on doors to give a warning. But it was too late. Eva emerged from the elevator and, as if she had a GPS tracker on the old supervisor, walked straight to his room. Ignoring the waiter's attempts to block her, she kicked the door open. The 3 people inside were in disarray. The 2 hostesses were in a compromising position, and the supervisor was halfway through pulling up his pants. He stared at Eva, feeling as if he'd been plunged into an icy abyss. Eva, unhurried, took out her phone and started recording as she walked forward. "Supervisor," she sneered, "you really are working yourself to the bone. So busy you can't even pull up your pants." The supervisor was flustered. He pointed at one of the women and stammered. She accidentally spilled a drink on my pants. I was just about to dry them." Eva's smile widened. "I'll give you a chance. Tell me about your little arrangement with Harvey Bao." The supervisor swallowed, trying to remain calm. What arrangement? I don't know what you're talking about. I was just under a lot of work pressure tonight and came here to relax by myself. Who are these girls? I don't know them." Eva snorted. After closing the door, she pulled a small baggie of white powder from her pocket and pressed it into the stunned supervisor's hand. "I used to be a narcotics officer. Just a reminder, with this amount, you're looking at the death penalty." It took the supervisor a moment to react. He threw the baggie to the floor in terror. "What are you doing? You're planting evidence on a public official? Do you know that the police chief is a good friend of mine?" "Huh, I'll have your badge for this." Eva laughed coldly and looked at the 2 hostesses. "Did he, at any point, offer to sell this to you?" The 2 women nodded without hesitation and launched into a tearful, detailed, and entirely fictional account of a drug deal. Supervisor. He never would have guessed that these 2 women were former informants for Eva. Tonight, Eva had tailed Harvey Bao to the club. A short while later, she saw the supervisor sneak in as well. She immediately decided to frame him. The supervisor was furious. "Fine, you're all ganging up to frame me? My conscience is clear. At worst, I lose my job. But you, Officer Vance, you're breaking the law." Eva took a breath. "Then come back with me for a urine test." She paused, then added mockingly, "Didn't you notice you were feeling unusually energetic tonight?" The supervisor froze again. He slowly turned his head to look at the wine glasses on the table, then shot a furious glare at the 2 women. Eva said, "Don't bother looking. Let's go. The evidence is ironclad. You're finished." A wave of dread washed over the supervisor. A cold sweat broke out all over his body, his legs went weak, and he fell to his knees in front of Eva. "Officer, I know what you want. I'll cooperate. I will cooperate completely." An hour later, at the detective squad headquarters. "I met him through his cousin," the supervisor said with a pained expression. It was a moment of greed. "Save it for internal affairs. I'm not interested. As for tonight, drug charges versus bribery. You weigh the options. You know what to say." Eva's face was grim. He even threw in a bonus, giving up Harvey's cousin. The supervisor sang like a canary, spilling everything about his dealings with Harvey Bao. Eva glared at the supervisor and was about to go arrest Harvey. Eva's face was grim. Before she left, Captain Morrison pulled her into his office. He hesitated for a moment before finally saying, "Eva, you never used to use methods like this." Eva gave a grim smile. A young life was just snuffed out because of them, and we're supposed to just close the case? When you're dealing with animals like these, you can't play by the rules. The captain pursed his lips and said no more. He could feel that ever since the Martin Marshall case, his best partner had changed. Emerald Lake Estates. Ethan personally dressed the wounds on Leo's back, an act that left Leo feeling both honored and completely overwhelmed. "Mr. Vance, thank you so much for tonight." Leo sat stiffly on the sofa, looking deeply uncomfortable. "If it weren't for you, I'd be drinking with the ferryman on the river Styx by now." Ethan handed him a cigarette, unable to hide his amusement. "So that's your brilliant strategy? Scaring people?" Leo gave an embarrassed smile and explained his original plan. "You know me, I'm just a small-time hood. Where would I get real hardware?" "Mr. Vance, thank you. If Beanie is watching from beyond, he can finally rest in peace." Ethan smiled. "I'd say you showed both courage and cunning." "Heh, don't mention it. You've helped me out a lot in the past. I just ran a few errands for you. Tonight, you saved my life. Mr. Vance, from now on, my life is yours. Whatever you need, just say the word. I'll walk through fire for you." Ethan paused, taking a couple of silent drags from his cigarette. "Leo, I've told you many times, working with me is dangerous." Leo's mouth dropped open. He rushed to explain, No, I don't mean I want to work for you. I just mean if you ever have a use for me, then." "You don't want to work for me?" Ethan cut him off, looking at him with a strange expression. Leo was completely lost, unable to figure out what Mr. Vance meant. "Mr. Vance, I'll be honest. I've always wanted to work for you. But I never finished school. I don't have any special skills. All I know is how to fight. I'm not good enough for you. I know my place. I wouldn't dare dream of being your equal, but if you need an errand boy." "But you're loyal," Ethan said with a smile. Leo froze, scratching his head. "When you're on the streets, loyalty is everything. I may not be educated, but I understand that much." Ethan nodded. "Working for me will be dangerous. Are you afraid?" Leo's eyes widened. "What is this? Am I finally getting a seat at the big table?" He immediately adopted the earnest expression of a man who had drifted his whole life, only to finally find a leader worth following. He said excitedly, "I'm not afraid. To work for you would be an honor, even if I die." Ethan clapped him on the arm. "Don't say things like that. Leo, you need to prepare yourself for what I'm about to say." Leo's eyes were filled with anticipation. "Okay, Mr. Vance, just say it. I'm going to help you build the East Side Syndicate. I'm going to make you a real gangster." Leo was dumbstruck, his shock beyond words. But then he thought about it. Something this fantastical, more unbelievable than winning the lottery. How could it be real? "And Mr. Vance, don't joke around with me. The East Side Syndicate is just some nonsense I made up when I was drunk." Ethan's tone was serious. "I'm not joking. Are you willing?" Leo swallowed hard. Seeing that Ethan was completely serious, he nodded like a bobblehead. Yes. Of course I am. But, WHY?" Ethan took a deep breath. "I'm investigating an organization called the Celestial Axis. They're very secretive, and they're involved in the kind of illegal business that gets you a death sentence. So, I need your East Side Syndicate to rise up fast, steal their business, and force them out into the open." Leo's jaw hung open. He couldn't speak. "Ethan, you don't want to?" No. "Then you're scared?" Leo waved his hands frantically. "I am not afraid of dying, but I'm just a petty thug. I'm good at stealing and fighting, but this kind of thing, I'm afraid I'm not up to the task." Ethan's voice was grave. "I will help you. I will do everything in my power to ensure your safety. But let me be clear, I can't guarantee you will come out of this unscathed. So think about it. If you don't want to do it, just pretend I never said anything. We'll still be friends. It won't change anything." Leo looked torn. His hesitation wasn't just about the danger. It was about the fear of letting Ethan down. He knew his own limitations. Could he really handle such a heavy responsibility? After a long moment, Leo gritted his teeth and looked up at Ethan. "Mr. Vance, I swear to you, I'm not afraid to die, and I truly want to work for you. In creating the East Side Syndicate, that's been my dream. If you don't think I'm too useless, I'd be honored to do it. But if I mess up, you have to promise you'll go easy on me." Ethan let out a long breath. "Thanks, Boss Leo." No, you can't call me that. Just call me by my name." Ethan smiled, then changed the subject. "Don't tell your men the details of this. I don't want anyone to know that I'm the one behind you. Understand? Leo nodded. Understand. Mr. Vance, I'll just follow your orders. I won't ask any questions you don't want me to. I'm all in. I'll do whatever it takes to help you smoke out that Axis thing. Good, Ethan said with a faint smile. I bought a bar. I'll hand it over to you tomorrow. I'll be in touch before we make any moves. At that same moment, Eva and her team arrived at the repair shop, only to find it completely empty. Just as she was about to head to Harvey Bao's house, she noticed an unusually clean patch of concrete at the entrance. She took out her flashlight and examined it closely. A moment later, on the gravel path nearby, she found a faint bloodstain covered with a thin layer of dirt, clearly the result of a hasty cleanup. Seeing this, Eva frowned, a sense of foreboding rising in her. Suddenly, she thought of Ethan's strange behavior when he brought her lunch that afternoon. It couldn't be. While the other officers were still searching the shop, Eva slipped away and called Ethan. Sis, what's up? It's the middle of the night. You know Harvey Bao, don't you? Were you at his repair shop tonight? Ethan paused for a second. He hadn't expected his sister to find the shop so quickly. He chuckled. Don't know him, but I've heard the name. He's got some connections, right? Tonight, I've been home the whole time. Didn't go anywhere. Eva didn't have time for games. Hey, was it you? Ethan played dumb. What are you talking about? He's dead? Well, looks like the heavens finally have eyes. Heh, by the way, sis, I heard about a group called the East Side Syndicate. Seems they had some beef with him. You might want to look into them. Might find a lead. Eva gritted her teeth, furious. What are you planning now? Ethan, don't go too far. Sis, I'm tired. Ethan hung up. Beside him, Leo felt a chill run down his spine. Good Lord, the blueprint for his dream had just been drawn, and he was already starting on nightmare mode? Why would they provoke the police? No, this wasn't just provoking them. This was a taunt. Ethan smiled, reassuring him. Don't worry, there won't be any evidence. At most, they'll invite you in for a chat. I'll tell you how to handle it. If the cops are paying attention, it proves the East Side Syndicate has power. Besides, if you've never been questioned by the police, how can you call yourself a boss? Leo, what kind of pirate ship have I just boarded? Thrilling. This was damn thrilling. The future was here, and he was ready.